pawns, man, in the game, they get capped quick. They be out the game early.
Unless they some smart-ass pawns.
This is not meth.
We are back. Episode 15. After tonight, we will be in the final 16 episodes of Oz and Breaking Bad. Guaranteed to be two different qualities of shows, but we'll get to that later. We are wrapping up season 4 or 5 or whatever you want of Oz tonight. 4 the B version of season 4 of thank you Sopranos for putting us through that, and then we'll be wrapping up arguably one of the best seasons of television in Breaking Bad season 4. Only to probably be outdone by its predator, the next one, season 5. And then The Wire, we're back in school. We're learning. We're learning some things about school. And again, as much shit as I talked about the one location, really glad they picked this location. I will say that. And thank God Prez does not have a gun. I just want to say that on the record. Thank God he doesn't, because he would have shot someone. We have Matt. Matt, how are you? How was your viewing experience? And I've said this probably every week. Sorry that you have to be the one to talk about Oz.
I'm doing good, but I mean, hey, any week where I can watch only 2 episodes of Oz and 4 episodes of The Wire, that's a good week.
That is true. That is true. And Mark, man that made us late tonight. No, I'm just kidding. Mark, how are you? How was your viewing experience? And is this the best week of the show since you got to do 4 episodes of The Wire?
Well, I'm not unhappy about it. A lot of notes, I will say that. So I'd be prepared for that. But yeah, I mean, you weren't lying about different quality of shows at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, it is basically chess versus checkers at this point. They are not even the same game. 2 of these shows are miles above the other, and Oz is here. But again, Matt said it multiple times. We probably wouldn't have Breaking Bad, and we definitely probably won't have The Wire if it wasn't for what Oz was able to create. So we'll give them that. It's luckily The Wire and Breaking Bad stopped watching after season 3 of Oz, so they were able to make good shows. But
Pretty
like
much
always,
half the cast of Oz would go on to even better roles in The Wire. So
yeah, we are. Yeah, so we're going to be finishing these up. We do have, I think we've hinted at it before, we are doing a mini break between these after this thing. We're doing a mini series, so we won't jump right back into season. So we will release those soon, if you're curious. Those will only be 3 weeks long, but we're really pumped about that. And then, again, we planned our season 2 of this show before we were done with season 1 of any of these shows. So we were ready to go. We'll reveal that soon, too. But we're going to start like we always start. We're going to get those 2 episodes of Oz out of the way. Take it away.
all right, so we start off with episode 15 for season 4, Even the Score. I know I normally don't really talk too much about the flashbacks for showing how the inmates ended up in jail, but I couldn't just let this one go with Chico throwing poor Peter Dinklage off a roof, and probably one of his first early roles. And then we kind of jump into the present day when How dumb do you have to be to request a shakedown, but then keep drugs on you at the same time? I mean, ask Chico, because this is pretty much what he did. He's trying to get, I think, who was it? He was trying to, I think Omar or something like
And
that.
he's
Yeah,
trying to get Omar, which
yeah. And then he ends up getting.
if we had to give awards for worst actor, I'm telling you, it wouldn't be close. This guy is so bad. Like,
Oh yeah.
oh,
I completely blocked him out of my memory of the show entirely. But yeah, so Omar is doing Omar stuff. He starts a fight at a rehab meeting. Sister Pete says she's thinking about giving up on him, like we did about 4 or 5 episodes ago. But
probably
McManus
longer.
just won't give up on him. So I mean, hopefully, maybe McManus and Omar can just go off on another show or something like that.
I hope they end up like Shawshank Redemption, just on a beach together somewhere, like away from us. Wherever Alvarez is, I would like both of them to join him.
Oh, the shit room, yeah.
Yeah.
So then we cut over to Beecher. He's having more talks about his parole potential, and he decides that he wants the victim's parents to be made aware of it. The lawyer says that he's got balls for days, pretty much, for that idea. They do have a sit down with Beecher and the parents of the girl that he hit in his DUI thing there. And they pretty much said ultimately that they're not going to interfere with the parole. So that's good news for Beecher. Over in another wing, Carver has gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and the warden has pretty much said he's done doing him any favors. Robson is released from solitary since the witness against him committed suicide. Saeed beats him up, and now the Muslims and the Aryans are going to be going to war. Luke Perry tries to talk Vern down a little bit, and then
Did that white woman just change Saeed altogether? Because now he's just like one of the most violent guys. I understand, like, he's been in Oz enough time; it's starting to snap. But like, he's now. There's not been a real like transition of why he is now where he's at. Like, I understand. Like what was it? 3 episodes ago, 4 episodes ago, he was still like defending people and going through it peacefully and like talking to Beecher about like how to forgive and like go through shit. And now he's just jumping, like going nuts. Like, I mean, I'm fine with it, but like, this show is always good at over explaining why shit is the case, why they're doing the stuff they're doing, where we don't care. This is just, they really just don't care. They don't want.
They actually have a conversation between Beecher and Saeed about this. I think in the next episode, where Beecher says that he feels like when Saeed killed Adebisi, a little bit of Adebisi jumped inside Saeed, and now he's got this rage inside of him.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid.
But it was great when Rebadow got the bug and started being a killer. Mark got fully. You wanted that one. You loved that one. You were ready for it.
They had done nothing with that character. I'll stand behind that.
Let him have his moment.
You didn't need to do anything. He was just a kooky old guy. That's my point. We didn't need anything.
But yeah, Vern, he visits with his daughter-in-law and the granddaughter, and she kind of tells Vern a little bit about her history after he confronts her, and she tells him that he's not entirely sure if Hank is the father of the child or not. So
big talk, by the way, from Vern Schillinger, where he is the one literally raped Beecher the moment that man moved into Oz. Or like the second night, and he's sitting over there throwing stones at her for like, making money on the streets. Like, sir, what? Like, well, his only defense of what I
kept
kept
the mother of his potential grandchild.
Just crazy talk.
Then we have a little bit by going back to the basketball side of things.
Oh, geez, God.
McManus tells Brass that he has a friend who's a scout, and he's going to be at the next game. Another guard pretty much kind of makes an excuse to club Vehu's knee, but he says that he's going to play hurt, and they do end up losing. McManus and Brass win somehow. The other inmates kind of turn their backs on Vahue a little bit. They're mad at him. They lost a lot of money and stuff on the game. And then lo and behold, the scout actually offers Brass a chance to potentially play for the little basketball team that he's with.
Sacramento King, which is literally the most Sacramento King thing ever, is to pick up a prison guard from Oz to come play for them. What a guarded franchise. Jeez.
You got to have the story too for the season. The little guard that
around
could.
the time where they had that really good team with like Mike Bibby and like Turgaloo, like weren't they really
Chris
good?
Webber and Pages Stoyakovich, yeah, absolutely. They went to the finals almost.
Yeah, this guy gets a shot to play with the team.
We need the white guy from Oz. Let's bring him
I mean,
in.
if they would have had him, they probably would have won the championship. Who knows?
Because his post play was so good, he lost the freaking the mole.
But unfortunately, we will never know because when Morales gloats, Tim lies that he will still be playing, and Morales gets one of the other inmates to slice Brass's Achilles tendon, crippling him. So no
both
more
of them,
basketball.
right?
That was just the one, I think.
Did he just slice one? It looked like he tried to slice both. But that is, as somebody that injured theirs, that is one of the most painful scenes I've ever sat through as a viewing experience. And how they described it, he'll always walk funny. There was a chunk missing. I was like, oh.
Oh man, yeah,
that was bad. That was one of the most brutal injuries. Like at that moment, how he was reacting, you might as well slit his throat because it was less painful than that fucking killing.
Okay, so then we get Method Man gets in Hill's face about being a rat, but Supreme Allah comes to his aid. Although we find out that Supreme Allah had set up this encounter to kind of further his working on Hill. Then Rawls was there to recon the conversation and report back to Redding. Redding and his crew hold a little trial for Method Man in the gym, and Redding strangles him in the gym because, there's no prison guards there or anything like that. So,
also, we want to talk. You know how I am with strangulation on this show. Like when it happens, one-handed, just 50-year-old man, more. Able to hold on enough time to make that man die. Nope, don't buy it. Don't buy it. That's less believable than D'Angelo.
I mean, the other guys were there to hold him down, so he wasn't going.
They weren't even holding it. He was just really moving. You still held it. Stop it.
Oh.
It's proven HBO does not know what strangulation is. They don't know how to kill somebody by cutting off their oxygen supply. They don't know how to do it. They just literally if we put it around their neck to show them, they can assume they're dead. No, it's terrible.
We'll have to track down HBO shows in the future, see if that improves or not.
I'm telling you, I would love to get the chart because so far we are 0 for a mark.
The governor wants Giles to be declared insane so they can ship him into a mental asylum because he's kind of upset about how he kind of played the whole death penalty thing. Sister Pete refuses, but it doesn't really matter because the Supreme Court is kind of putting a pause on the death penalty stuff anyway. So Giles ends up getting put pretty much in solitary. Ryan has a visit with Cyril, and then Howell visits Ryan and says that she won't let him see Cyril again if she doesn't let him have sex with Cyril. So, fun. So Ryan then talks to the one former cop over there in the police officer wing and asks for him to have Howell have a little accident. And he agrees and pushes her down a flight of stairs, and I believe she breaks her pelvis.
Not how you break your pelvis by any stretch of the imagination.
I mean, there was a bunch of stairs.
She wouldn't even probably break a rib on that fall. Stop it. But whatever. Believe what you got. Sure.
Why can't she just die? Like, why is she hanging around?
No, I'm with you.
Like, what? Oz is really stacking up. Oz is really stacking up the characters of people that just should die. Like, there's no reason for them to be in here. Like, she's another one.
Bad woman.
Well, hopefully we'll get a couple episodes of a break from her at the beginning of the next season. We'll see. Ryan comes to Porrick's aid when Timmy Kirk attacks him. Luke Perry kicks Timmy out of his congregation. Then we go to Ryan has a visit with his newly discovered mother. She tells him about his past, where she was working off with some protesters, and they actually killed somebody. So she said that she's tired of running, and she's going to confess to that. That's kind of why she came to visit him before she confesses to that. She pretty much tells him that his plan to escape is stupid. Don't do that. We find out that Porrick's asylum request was denied, and he's going to be sent to Britain to face trial, where he will most likely be hung. Ryan visits Dr. Nathan, and she says that she's not going to help him escape. Good for her. Porrick is getting Ryan to help him build a bomb to blow up M City, and that's how we end this episode.
Yeah, we need to move off this bomb thing real fast because I'm about to lose my ever loving mind.
You mean you don't like how they were able to get all the ingredients through either the mail or just lying around the prison?
It literally just treats the audience like we're the dumbest human beings possible. It's believable, right? Sure they can make a bomb in M City. Listen, they've dug 3 holes in Oz. They've been able to escape through. No one ever checks the holes. They only do shakedowns and drug searches when the inmates ask for it, but they don't do it any other time. The one thing about this show, and the only redeeming quality of this show, is Beechard. He is the only redeeming, because even if that meeting with the parents should have been one of the dumber scenes, but it makes sense to his character. It's presented well in the show. It's delivered. All of that stuff is delivered really well. Everybody else, they fucked up by getting rid of, and I don't know the circumstances around contracts and what Keller had going on at the time or whatever, but taking Keller out was one of your biggest mistakes. It feels like O'Reilly's gotten less and less to do as the season has went on. Yes, he's featured, but it's only escaping. It's only the drug thing. It's wasting of O'Reilly, which was a great character. The instant switch of Saeed, which was annoying in a fact, but also they're realizing we don't got enough guy that will create violence because we killed Adebisi and we killed we don't know who else to go with, so we're just going to use now Saeed to be that character. It feels like they're literally trying to make Saeed the violent guy. Motherfucker wasn't violent for couldn't be violent for 3 seasons, and now you're going to tell me in this season after he stabs someone out of self-defense that this is now the sudden turn. It's a waste of a good character. It's a waste of good characters. I've said this. I believe Saeed should have left Oz. I think he should have took the parole thing and got out, and I think they should have kept Adebisi around. They took away one of the best evil guys in Oz, and now they're trying to sell us the great value version of it with the older black guy that I just don't care. He's fine, but he doesn't have the crazy moments. He's just the African American version of the Italian group. And the Italian group doesn't do anything either. Everybody's just sitting on their hands this entire season, and we're all supposed to care and matter about their individual storylines that are not violent or interesting. It's just weird. And we had to waste 2 episodes on basketball with McManus. What? There wasn't even any intrigue around the basketball game, guys. Win, lose, or draw, there was no drama. It didn't matter. It was literally a McManus just ego boost, or him walking around, and no one got hurt from it. No one got taken. The only guy was the officer, but that was even a one and done because they ended up switching it out real fast. It's such a lazy season, and when we rank this, I don't care how good the first 8 episodes were. That makes no difference to me anymore because that was so long ago at this point. You're operating on such a bad end of the season. I don't care. And the next episode is worse. Worse. I'm so frustrated with this show, and I have to endure 2 more seasons.
I think part of it that I think whenever I was at least I don't know if I was excited, but I was at least somewhat positive when they killed Adebisi. I think mainly just because it was just a good place to do it. It's just such a great place in the show to do it, and it makes sense plot wise. But I think a thing I didn't think about until now that we're finished with this half is how much influence Adebisi's character had on pretty much every aspect of the show, on how he just kind of injected some excitement in almost every facet. And now that that's gone, there's they're they either have to manufacture things to kind of create some type of excitement, or worse, they don't have anything. Like in the case with Saeed, they had nothing. They had no idea what to do with him this entire season, and
They really haven't had much to do with him since season 3, to be honest. Like, he was just a lawyer to represent the other people, but he never really, like, he lost they kicked him out of his group. And but to touch on your point about the NBC, you're 100% right. I was like, because leading up to that point, they never took out a main character. Like, they wasted, like, oh, here's this guy that we're introducing for the first 2 minutes so he can die, but, like, doesn't have any real impact on the story. So when they killed a guy, it was like, oh, shit, that had a feeling and emotion behind it. But they realized they just sucked the air out of this entire show by killing the one guy that was crazy enough to move the ball.
It is somewhat fitting that, Beecher is the only kind of solid character and the only kind of solid story they got going on right now. And you look back, you're like, oh, well, Beecher didn't have anything to do with fucking Adebisi anyway. They had to kind of make his story outside anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But no, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, we'll get to that whenever we talk about this last season. But it's just, I mean, we're just in a bad spot in the show. We're in a bad spot. There's no better way to put it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that rosy outlook, let's finish up this season here. So, episode 16, season 4, famous last words. Hill tries to talk to Redding and is turned away. Hill at this point doesn't really know who to trust. He'll end up actually he still doesn't really trust the Supreme Allah, and he ends up working with Poet to put eggs in his meal since he's allergic to eggs, and he has a gnarly allergic reaction to the said breakfast and dies.
Motherfucker. What? Eggs? We discovered eggs. And it's that violent of a death?
Instant.
Was it just egg? He was coughing up blood. Like, he was
That's what I'm saying. What? That's like somebody reading the chart and goes, oh, he's lactose intolerant, and then just, like, puts milk and the dude just, like, his head explodes. Like, what? Like, how is it that violent? Like, have you ever heard of anybody having an egg illness that would have killed you?
And there's a lot of food with eggs in it, and it's not just eggs.
They're served with white bread every time. I'm pretty sure it's part of the component. Like no chance.
Like the Italian guy from season 1, I think, died less violently than Supreme Allah. He was eating glass for a couple weeks.
He ate glass and slowly, but that dude ate an omelet and literally had, like, his insides turned to mush.
Oh, geez.
I was like, I'm pretty sure they don't know what this is. I would have been more better off if they just rolled it back from season 1 and started putting glass in his food. Like, to say eggs, and then everybody's like, dude, can you imagine if that dude ate a cake, like a piece of cake? His head would have, like, he would have died. How do you sneak eggs into something? Like, that's such a weird meal choice. Like, whatever.
And of course, because it's Oz, there's going to be no investigation of that. So hey.
And then does he go up to the thing and goes, "Does this have eggs in it?" No, okay, good, because if not, I'll die. Like,
oh goodness. Oh yeah. So Redding and Hill end up making up, but Hill just still wants to kind of stay away from the gang stuff. So that's kind of it for their story. Redding asked Rawls to kill Morales. which doesn't go so well for Riles as he is killed with an elevator.
Oh, okay. So I laughed really hard because I'm done with like the over like judging the show on like their lack of police presence and all this stuff because clearly that's just what they want us to believe. They give these two inmates that are in there for violent crimes. They both leave them in there with tools and all this stuff, and then they sit there and say, "Okay, good luck," and shut the door. Like,
What, do you want a guard to put up a chair and sit there and watch
what's
them?
the worst that could happen? Like, what? Literally 30 seconds from the door shut, the elevator is crushing the guy.
I mean, to be fair, I think like on the show we've only seen like 4 guards, so I mean they gotta watch this whole prison.
I was just like, this is just, I'd laugh because they do like a great shot of it too. Like Rawls is standing there, and they literally, the camera turns to him opening the door and pulling the door shut where he's out, and they're like, oh, well, he's dead. Shocking. What?
Yeah. So
I guess it didn't have a security like measure either inside the elevator. Like, of course, like no, just go straight down.
No, this is a prison elevator. They don't
it's a hydraulic press. They treated the elevator like it was a hydraulic press. The moment it felt resistance, nope, push through it, go through.
You think if he would have just like laid down on the ground, maybe he would have been okay. But
let's see how you survive this. Not very well.
He probably had a flashback right at that moment, and he was paralyzed.
There should have been a shitty cop to Jimmy and fucking The Wire. You would have been better off.
Well, we went from that very realistic death to Luke Perry is forced to resign from his church. Timmy is kind of working and turning all the other inmates against him. Yeah, you need to be surprised. You think that if you go to jail, you could still run your church, but I guess other people disagree with that. And so Luke Perry, in trying to get back in the good graces with his congregation, decides to do some manual labor with them and help them put up the wall in the cafeteria. But they have other plans, and they end up walling him up inside the cafeteria wall. So I have 1 kill pending. So who knows what'll happen.
This is now the dumbest thing that's ever happened to him. I mean, I don't know if he realizes, and I don't think the creators of this realize. Did you know that just because you put concrete, like setting, like to set this wall, it doesn't instantly dry and lock you? If he just went,
well, I think they had him tied up in there. I think they had him like tied up. Yeah, I think they had him like tied up to a pipe or something in there.
Couldn't he at least reach forward?
I mean, he could probably kick or something. I don't know if they had his feet tied.
I mean, he's like
but then they moved a giant like refrigerator thing in front of it too. So
that had wheels.
But yeah,
and it's not like an air conditioner unit. Have you ever walked by a fridge? It doesn't sound like a 747 taking off. You can hear behind it. Like if somebody was yelling, what's that? I don't know. Or, hey guys, have we seen Luke Perry? Like, where's he at? Like, there's no search. Alvarez went missing after he stabbed that cop. They were on a lot. They were running. Luke Perry doesn't show back up at the hard labor camp, and they don't return to the site. Like, come.
Once again, they're down to like 4 guards. I don't think they even count the prisoners at the end of the day.
Are you smarter than a 5th grader? Is literally how they treat us as audience members.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, they're like, you watched the previous 7 episodes. I mean,
I would be rather if they just opened the oven door and shoved him in and turned it on. I would have believed that more.
And just fed it to the inmates for lunch the next day.
Yes, like if they would have chopped him up and put him in stew, I would have been like fully on board. Whatever, good. They're gonna
now
put him.
You get to be the Last Supper.
You know, I also know we talked about not wanting to get into like the guard thing. They're pulling an overnight job at walling him in with concrete. Like I'm just sitting there like, how is this? They're gonna come back at 3 a.m. Like, hey, we got to get into our cells. We just finished up with
See,
this.
I think
And
what
we
they should do is they should kind of show the inmates kind of paying off guards more often, and then at least that you can understand. It's like, oh, okay, you got a dirty guard.
They're
That makes
also
sense.
putting up stuff in the walls where we saw a guy on death row wall carve through it and choke a man out. So with these tools, they could have escaped. And I love the justification from the redhead because his exact words to him, you should have accepted the blowjob.
That's a good life lesson.
What? Like you're putting you're still pissed about that? I was just like, and you know what? That whole group was another giant missed opportunity from the show. Because Adebisi's gone, you needed another group to step up and to cause mischief, and they didn't do it. They had a great job of like getting people over to their side, disciples, like running missions for them, taking out Hierarch. They had everything in their power. Luke Perry was a great guy to have like as that leader of it because he seems like stoic, but he does what he needs to do. But they just wasted the entire opportunity. It just wasted points.
I think what probably happened was that they got the call like, hey, we need 8 episodes. We need you to fill a gap. Can you help us out? I was like, oh yeah, sure. You start Monday. You have all weekend to write all 8 episodes.
Yeah, basically.
Oz really likes to set up the elements of an all-out race war and then give you no payoff. Mm-hmm. This is like the 3rd time they've done it. Like I don't know what they're doing with this.
Yeah, they're a girl that calls you over to their apartment. They start like making moves on you and said, "Yeah, I'm going to go to bed." What? What? Well, we were talking about
just accepted the blowjob.
You should just accept the blowjob. All right, into the mix. Crazy.
All right, so we go back to one of our other favorite characters, Carver, who is still gone crazy. He attacks a guard and he ends up locking down his unit, holding everyone hostage. Leo comes to talk to him. Carver tries to shank him, but another prisoner intervenes, and Carver ends up getting shanked himself. So he dies in Leo's arms, just like his father did before him. Very, very fitting.
Should have died 77. He should have died episode 2 of when he appeared. Whenever he appeared, should have been the next episode.
He should have at least died. The governor's security should have took him out.
I'm really glad from these episodes to The Wire, or it could have been really close. I don't know how it ends when he learned how to act in between them. Thank God.
And I hope everyone watched The Wire after this and not the other way around. Because
yeah.
So Leo is upset about it. He tries to resign as warden, but his assistant won't let him. She tears it up and gives him a ride. Murphy, our favorite guard, takes Brass's place in the last basketball game, and he and McManus get their asses kicked. So that's the end of that story. Yay. Omar is driving McManus crazy.
I guess it's 3 episodes for the basketball game. It was 3.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they did 3 games. Yeah, Omar is driving McManus crazy now, just like everyone else. McManus just suddenly shows up on a TV game show and loses in the most McManus fashion possible. Omar starts a fight over it and throws a guy into a TV.
He Freddy Krueger's him. Welcome to prime time, bitch. He literally kills him with the TV. I was like dumbfounded. I was like, yeah. Again, guess who they kill? Guess who they kill? Not a person of any value whatsoever.
Yeah, I had it written down that he killed Chico, but then I had to go back and see it wasn't Chico.
It wasn't Chico. Wasn't at all. Should have been Chico, because he hadn't been doing anything for a lot of episodes, but we'll keep him around because we need somebody to know Alvarez when Alvarez shows up in episode 4 of season 5.
But Omar is going to go to solitary, and he beats the crap out of McManus on the way there.
We should change his name as long as he's around. He should not deem the name Omar. That is a disrespect to that character. He is not even a 10th.
Little.
Yeah, he is not a 10th of what Omar really is. Stop it.
I'm pretty sure they named Omar's character after him.
I promise you, they cannot.
All right, so then we cut back over to the Beecher side of things. Vern learns about Beecher's potential parole, so he's
Who
not
does
happy
he
about
learn
that.
that from?
I think was it Ropeson?
Oh, it's him and Sister Pete, right?
Oh yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, so they pretty much they figure that out. Saeed vows to help protect Beecher from Vern messing up his parole. The lawyer gives him a nice good luck kiss. Then we find out that, hey, Beecher is getting paroled. It was successful. Robeson has a failed assassination attempt, stabs a guard in the process, and Beecher gets out of prison. We get to see him leave. The lawyer's there to give him a ride. And we finally get a happy ending on the show where he and the lawyer and his daughter are going off to have a nice little picnic. So good for Beecher. So then, no. Beecher wakes up in his bed. That was all a dream. The board actually voted no on his parole, so he's stuck in prison for at least another year. Vernon Robeson still tried to mess with him, and Saeed pops up out of nowhere, unless he was hiding under the desk that whole time, and shanks both of them.
Like, I have never been so angry at this because one, I've have multiple. So I ruined this for myself a long time ago. So when I was talking about the Russian guy and the other guy and the inside the library where he shanks him, he's going to be the 50th kill. Whatever happened to that guy? Because they never talked about it. We talked about that a couple episodes ago. So when I looked it up, there were like 8 unsolved things from Oz that have yet to be. Number one, couldn't get past it. Spoiler for myself was like Beecher, like still incarcerated or whatever. That's one of the big things. The issue was, I was like, oh my God, they're doing this. Like, that's great. The entire time he's walking out, I'm like, oh, he's going to get shot. That cop is looking at him very weird, like he's going to beat the fuck out of him or something. There's going to be something that changes. Nope. We did a dream sequence. I lost my mind. I was so angry because I'm on the happy side because I'm like, if you take Beecher out of this season, what are we gonna do? This is gonna be the worst 16 episodes of my entire life. And then,
I mean, when he woke up, I could have sworn I heard the song in Joker, like,
yeah. And then I laughed really hard because when they ran up the guard and stabbed him, like, yes, it never works when you have a knife and you're going straight forward at somebody. In Oz, you'll never be able to perform the task, except Saeed. Saeed's the only person to ever be able to successfully shank somebody.
That's because he had the power of Adebisi inside of him.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm so confused. Like, and I know I shouldn't be confused because they don't know what they're doing either. So it really doesn't, like, I'm trying to make sense of what they don't even know. But like this switch on Saeed makes zero sense. It's also not interesting. Because if you've watched Saeed for this long, you feel like everybody else here. This is out of character. They have not showed this progression. And no, we do not believe, because if this was the case, every other character he's impacted on would have swayed him. He would have left with the girl, like he would have went with the girl that he was with. There were multiple moments to break Saeed. Saeed is never broken. And he didn't break until like 5 episodes ago. Like he didn't break immediately after Adebisi died. So they're just throwing this in here, and then you're ruining arguably one of your best characters, but you also have given him nothing to do since season 3. Besides be a lawyer for the defenseless. Like, what? Like,
That's okay. I'm sure when we start the next season, they will have kind of gone back to business as usual, hopefully, without any explanation.
I guess. I don't know. Because now he's going to be in the hole for a while. He added way more sentencing because he just attempted murder on 2 people. I also did like, it's a stupid moment, but because I'm already pissed off at the show, so I don't really care. But like Vern getting mad about pronouncing of his last name is like, I've been in here.
That's one of my favorite running jokes on the show.
Like, you should know what my fucking name is. Like, that was like, okay, awesome. Because every guard says it different, and like, it's so funny. But like, They actually
I started calling him Vern because I don't want him to get mad at me if I mispronounce it. So
but when he like breaks, I've been here for this fucking long. You should know my goddamn name. Like it was one of the silver linings, but it's like a joke that's like doesn't have any payoff really because the rest of I'm just pissed off at the whole show. Like it's like a haha fucking kill me because then even the intrigue of him trying to stop Beecher from getting released was interesting. Turns out fucking dream. Like what? Like oh
which
because I would have
think it's
rather
very
him
fitting.
try to stop him and then get denied. Didn't have to be a dream sequence. Now Matt told me what ended up like why the story was like what they. You can kind of explain what you were telling me before, but like why there was two different sequences.
Yes, so pretty much they weren't really sure if this show was going to be coming back, so they pretty much had this where it could either be the series finale or the season finale. So I think that had it been the series finale, that would have been Beecher getting a happy ending and getting out of jail. But then, of course, they decided to renew it, so they kind of, which I think is still fitting because it's a good fuck you, which is fitting to pretty much everything that happens to Beecher in this show. So
But
I
Beecher,
enjoyed
it
that
should have
part.
just been declined. Like we all know that he needs to be declined because they're like, buddy, we'll let you out, but we really need you. We need you in the show. Like you're gonna have to serve another.
Maybe
year.
when the series finale, maybe we'll let you out. We'll see. We'll reassess your parole at that point. But yeah, so that's kind of the end of their story. We find out Oz is getting cable, which also includes HBO. So that's interesting. They get to watch a whole lot of fun shows now instead of just Miss Sally. So Ryan, with working with Pork's bomb plan, he's not really completely on board, especially after Cyril comes back to M City. So Pork has his bomb pretty much. So he kind of runs out and grabs the bomb. Ryan tries to take it, but he gets it. Pretty much to kind of evacuate M City. But of course, making a bomb in jail not always going to work, and this bomb ends up being a dud. So that's pretty much the end of that storyline there. But wait,
go ahead. Sorry.
We find out that Ryan did forget to turn off the gas stove, even after he was told to go back and turn off the gas stove. And a guard goes in there to try to sneak a cigarette and blows up the kitchen. And that is the end of season 4 of Oz.
So, fair. Few things. One, bomb, whatever. One of the dumbest, like, we've had riots, we've had this, what do we need? We need a bomb. Can somebody explain to me why, if it was a bomb, why everybody just waits on the other side of the wall to get blown back or what? Like, why'd you have to stop and just everybody just wait here? We're gonna see how bad this explosion is. It's a bomb. You might want to get the fuck out of Dodge.
Well, I mean, it's basic human curiosity. You kind of want to see the explosion a little bit.
Dumb. And then O'Reilly, it's not on O'Reilly because O'Reilly is told to go turn it back on, and the swole Italian guy, he's like, "No, you turn it off." So he passed it back. It was on him. He said, "I ain't doing it. You do it." And he's like, "No, fuck you." And then that's what happened. Oh, also I love that fire. Like just like it just looks so bad. Like, but whatever. I was just like, oh, so we're gonna get a new kitchen.
Well, I think that's actually. I think they lost the set in between because they weren't sure if they were going back. So I don't think they renewed the set. So I think they actually had to build a new set in between or something like that. So
was Luke Perry in that around that kitchen?
I mean, he's in that kitchen. I don't know if the explosion is going to open up the wall or not.
No, I'm just saying he'll probably die. Like that's they break it down and he just laying there.
I mean, that would explain why no one hears him screaming like the next day.
So they thought one bomb. Turns out, psych, it's just the gas from the yard lighting it up. Yeah, dumb season. Dumb.
So final thoughts on the episode before we go into the season.
Go ahead, Mark.
I think I just want to include one thing, just because I think more or less said it. Not great. I feel like Omar White he's probably the worst television character ever. And it's that trifecta of being badly written, bad character arc, bad acting. Like, I don't think I've seen it so expertly put on display before. Like, just the fucking worst. And then O'Reilly, real quick. I'm not even sure like how I really feel about that. I kind of sort of like he showed some growth, but at the same time, I also just want him to fucking shit up. So it left me thinking I don't really know how I feel about O'Reilly's little mini arc there, even though again he was also mostly put on the bench for this season. Like it just Although I do like it still took us, even though only 2 episodes, still took us like 40 minutes to unpack the stupidity of Oz.
Yeah, it is this second half. We're going into this project with Matt and Mark. I'm not a huge TV guy. I'm not. I find the ones I like. I have to be like recommended by like people I really trust on TV shows. I always have like a limit to if it's over a certain amount of episodes or seasons. I just don't even bother because the commitment and being like burned at the end. Like I can sit through a 2-hour movie and be disappointed at the end, but I've only wasted 2 hours. If I waste seasons and be disappointed, I have trust issues on that. So it takes a lot. This kind of thing makes me committed to it. I get to talk it out and I get to raise my frustration. The second half of this season has to be arguably some of the worst television I have ever watched in my entire because of based on what you built for me. Like what you built to what you gave me, awful. Like it's crazy how 180 the beginning of the season is and the second. And I understand. Fuck HBO and the creators. They made it season 4. They made this an entire season. So we have to judge it on season 4 because if all of us were being transparent, first half season 4 we'd give a high rating or good enough rating. Pass it. It'd probably be one of the best seasons of Oz. Like if we're being transparent, but we have to rate this as season 4. It is a unit. It is together. And if you watch episode 8 of Oz and you watch episode 9 of Oz, they are tonally different. And it keeps that direction and it goes downhill ever since. So, and that is just one of the most disappointing. I guess we'll go for scores. Do we want to do Wire and then Breaking Bad and then come back to rate both of them, or do you want to rate Oz right now?
Let's just knock out the scores for Oz now so we can just put it to bed.
I'm 100% with you. I was just trying to disappoint people. I was rattling with scores all day, trying to decide like where to go because like the beginning, the craziness of the beginning of season 4, where McManus is out of charge, trying to get back in charge. Adebisi running the show and like then switching people in and out. There were still stupid moments, but like Keller's there and like there's a whole different things. Great. I would have probably put that beginning season at like 4 stars. I was really comfortable with where I was. I'm very low. I'm probably at like a 1 star for the remainder of the season. I don't enjoy many of anything. The character deaths, the people that care, I don't care. We waste so much time on basketball. Like no interesting. And I'm 1. So I'm going to sit at 2. I'm sitting at a 2 star. And I don't know, like that may be just harsh, but like your mid-season was where your finale was, and I had to endure 8 more episodes of not even close to the same characters, development, story, writing. I think everything's down across the board. So it rises and plummets. So I'm at 2. I will never watch season 4. I would watch the first half and never watch the ending again. But me and Mark both said this entering the show. We both stopped when we originally watched the show around season 4. It makes perfect sense why both of us quit the show. Because we watched up to Adebisi's death, and once season 4, the rest of it happened, we were just out. Because it doesn't feel like the Oz show. So at that, I'm 2 stars. I mean, it's the worst season of Oz by a large margin for me. And that's sad because the first half is so, I would consider great. It just doesn't pay off.
I wish I could remember what I gave to season 2, 3 of Oz. I don't remember it being fantastic.
I don't remember either. I know you were lower than the rest of us.
Definitely low. I don't even remember.
So far on our rankings, the highest is season 3, season 2, and then season 1 is the lowest. It's all in that order.
Right. I mean,
so you gave seasons 3 a 3, and then Cody and I both gave it 4s.
Okay, then that makes it somewhat easy. Okay, I kind of echo a lot of what Cody said. If the first half of the season was just season 4, I thought it would have been the best season of the show, honestly, by a pretty large margin. It was very, very good, and it had kind of a perfect finale. It would have been their best season finale by far. And what do you know? Like, we get the actual season finale, and what do you know? It's bullshit again. Like, it just like Oz just cannot end a season to save its fucking life. I just don't know what it is.
And to be fair, we rated Breaking Bad season 1 based on that same logic, because the writer's strike F that, where the first 3 episodes of Breaking Bad season 2 is the finale of season 1, and we had to rate it inside the scale of what it was instead of what it could have been. So yeah. Sorry, Mark.
I think I will give the first half a bit of leeway on the score, not much though, because I think it's still my lowest rating of this part, because I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5. Like, it's a little bit better, but not much. The second half really hurts this season.
Yeah, no, I mean, pretty much what you guys have said, I'm in complete agreement. Like, the first half of this season, I would have given definitely 4 stars easy. But in a shocking turn of events, Mark is going to have the highest score for the season, because I'm also going to give it a 2 with Cody.
And I was looking back on it, even season 1 of Oz, we introduced the selling point of season 1 of Oz is the introduction of all these amazing characters. Like, we learn these characters for the first time. Yes, it's clunky. Yes, it has mistakes. Yes, there's problems, but it's miles better than what they were able to achieve in this last half. Because the first 8 is whatever. The last 8 doesn't even come close. And and honestly, if they reversed it, right? Season 1, like, we would be talking a different note. Be like, man, it started really rough, but the ending paid off. No, we just had this bad taste in our mouth because we had to do this for the last 4 weeks of watching this and talking about it. So I think it's safe with that rating. It's the lowest Oz at this point, at the bottom of the barrel. Any disagreements, or does anybody think it's better than season 1?
No.
No.
Yeah, hopefully this is going to be the lowest of all the shows, the lowest season of all the shows, because I'm hoping the next 2 seasons.
They're going back to 8.
Rebound.
Let's see what happens. Again, I have never seen season 5 or 6 of Oz, so I'm going in completely fresh. They can't do any worse. So
don't say that.
Maybe. Now we're going to be on to 4 episodes of The Wire. Take it away, Mark.
All right. Still big stuff I kind of have in here, so we'll strap in. Let's go ahead and get going. Episode 4, Refugees. Getting going with the politics side of this episode. Doesn't look like there's a ton here. Now they're racing up. Royce feels like he has to kind of renew his image, change his campaign colors. And we see him set up like some type of like poker game scheme to like get campaign money, which kind of makes me wonder if like a lot of politicians do that. They just set up these fake poker games so that a bunch of guys just lose money to them. I'm like, oh, this technically works out. It's just gambling money. Who cares? Tommy and his crew are discussing going after the Minister Alliance. Now that Tommy has a chance to win, his crew kind of went back and forth whether or not he should, just because he's the white guy in the race, and it's not like they're going to go away from Royce. He ends up meeting him with anyway, just to kind of thinking like, I can't not do it, or else these guys will think I'm above it. after the meeting, they seem to appreciate him coming by, so I think he at least wins a few brownie points there. And at I think it was a city council debate for the Marla Daniels and Unetta Perkins. You see Watkins noticing like a weird thing on a campaign flyer Royce's campaign flyer. He's noticed that he was endorsing Unetta Perkins on this flyer, and Royce had told him he would endorse Marla Daniels, so a little bit annoyed at that moment. I'm sure nothing will come of that. We'll just wait and see. Moving on to the police. Got Kima showing up for her first day at homicide, meets up with Lester and Bunk, goes through some minor razzing over some methane probes, having to call Mr. Lion from the Baltimore City Zoo. Then we go to old Burrell. I guess Burrell gets an order from on top. Wanted to slow down the witness murder case. He goes and tells the colonel to give the case to Greggs. Thinking the case needs some fresh ideas. I clearly just wanted to give it to a new person to kind of slow the investigation down. The Marlowe wiretap is now officially shut down. Marimo saw it over that, so Marlowe's cell phone is no longer being surveilled upon. Lester and Bunk do a search warrant on Lex's mother's house address, thinking they're going to find something. We get our McNulty sighting of the episode. He seems to be still in good shape after the search on Lex's house. Bunk and Lester notice that this mom is a little bit out of sorts, and they see this candle vigil, kind of on over a fireplace, thinking, you know what, this really appears that Lex is already dead, and they kind of expand upon that as they are going to the bar, and maybe one of the most one-sided conversations I've ever seen in television. Lester talking to himself about, man, there's Marlowe has hauled the West Side, but he has no bodies. How is he doing that? And all Bunk can think about, is trying to, hit on some women at this bar. Then we got Greg's going to her first crime scene. She gets some pretty good advice, having soft eyes, but then, gets fucked with again. Apparently this guy may have had some insight about who killed him. Apparently it was some man named Tater.
Tater.
Now, going over to the new major crimes, Perk, now newly minted sergeant. We see him showing up with Dozerman. They are now going to be a part of the new major crimes. They are now the rip and run unit we dreaded from the first season. And it does end with Kima getting the murder file on the witness murder. So she is now the lead detective on that case. Now,
so wait, the Wire's getting back together, but in different parts to get back together. It's like this police procedural has the exact same formula every season. Would you agree, Mark?
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna move on to the school and corner kids.
I'm just saying, could they have found a different way to reunite the boys we know they're getting back together. Why do we have to break them apart at the end of every season? It's so weird. Did he become sergeant because he found guy getting head?
Yeah.
Absolutely, he was.
That's what I'm talking about.
100%.
That's how you get ahead. That's how you get ahead in this game, right there.
Should have took the blowjob.
By the way, that still face is still burned into my images. That is some of the most overacting facial expressions I have ever seen in my life.
Right you are. Anyway, going over to Cuddy, notices that kid Spider hasn't been showing up at his gym anymore. He's noticing his absence. And then as he's about to coach up Michael in the gym, the deacon shows up, says, hey, may have a job for you at the school. Just go see the vice principal, Donald. Tell you what it is. Prez preparing what he's going to say to those kids after they saw some girl get her face sliced off. and going into that, Bubbles brings Sherrod back to the school because Sherrod has not been showing up as he agreed upon. Bubbles gives him the ultimatum like, hey, you either start going to school or, you're going to be out of this business with me. Sherrod gets put in Prez's class momentarily as Prez is talking about the attack. And nobody really seems to give a shit about the girl getting her face sliced off. Like, they're like, yeah, doesn't matter. Yeah, that was a fucking Friday. Who cares? So, of course, in the middle of that, old Namond and somebody in the class get a fight going. Randy uses that opportunity to escape the class. Sherrod sees him leaving, so Sherrod also takes off. So he is out of school once again. Also, in the middle, of Chris and Snoop are looking for Michael for like some unknown reason. Guess they just like the cut of his jib for right now. Randy gets caught running his snack selling scheme by one of the teachers. That was, hey, you're wearing the wrong color shirt. You're not in the third grade anymore. This is fucked up. Go over to the office. Cuddy is actually being brought in to be like a truant officer of sorts, going out there and getting kids, bringing them in for a day. So the school just keeps getting money for these kids having some sort of consistent attendance, if you would call it that. While he is in there, Randy is brought in to kind of get strong-armed by the principal, kind of the same way like a cop tries to like corner a witness into admitting stuff. He ends up giving her some information about some taggers in the school and kind of lets him off easy. Cuddy notices that, gives him the disapproval, like head shake.
Don't snitch, buddy.
In the middle of that, we also got Colvin and Parenti. That's what the other academics guy's name, Parenti, or seem like they got the go ahead to start their study. I mean, they never say his name. I had to look it up.
Okay.
I couldn't even remember his name.
You literally said that. I thought you were lying. I was like, I didn't remember hearing that.
Like, I waited for a while to try to like, okay, maybe Bunny says it at some point. And he doesn't. He just shows up with no name.
Fair enough.
Anyway, and Snoop and Chris seem to track down Michael. They see where he's living at. They trying to figure out a way, kind of get him a crew, kind of in the ends of Marlowe. Bunny starts scoping out the classrooms, trying to look for the ideal kids to kind of study upon. We get a peek into Michael's home life a bit. See his mom is very apparently on drugs. He does seem to be kind of the main caregiver of this family unit at this point. Prez is it's just kind of a weird thing. Like, there's when Prez is kind of talking about the principal and like he's been reassured by the vice principal, like, hey, that girl who got cut up, she didn't have HIV. I don't know if you're worried about that. And Prez gives the look of, I wasn't. Now I will, apparently. And lastly, Cuddy invites Michael and Justin to a boxing match in town, and like he has kind of like a weird night out with them. And Cuddy gives him a ride home, and Michael bails on him once Justin's out. Michael apparently doesn't want to be left alone with Cuddy, kind of leaves him off there. Then same time, kind of after that, we see Bubbles being somewhat disappointed for Sherrod, because even though, Bubbles is not the smartest man, he at least knows how to read, and he can spot a guy. He knows that you're not working out problems out of a math book with a dictionary. He's smart enough to know that.
Meth hasn't burned that part of his brain. He's still got that. So.
Last part, we're moving on to the streets. Opened up with Marlowe at a poker game, like losing bad. He ends up going to a corner store and blatantly robbing in front of a security guard. Security guard gets in his face like, listen, man, I can't let you just be stealing right in front of my face. Marlowe could give a shit. And old face Andre, the guy who got shit took by Omar, trying to find some compassion from Marlowe. Doesn't get any. Marlowe still expects him to pay his money back. Chris and Snoop are now stalking that security guard, trying to figure out how they can get him. Which really creepy whenever like Snoop asks him like, "So what do you do?" Yeah, you talk back. Fucking weirdos, like kill a guy for that reason.
Apparently, this Marlowe is a bad guy.
Who would have known?
Bodie does make the difficult decision of being put on my Marlowe's package. So he now beyond that. Prop Joe tries to get at Marlowe about joining the co-op. Marlowe doesn't really see the benefit, as he puts it, no one fucks with me now. So Prop Joe gets the bright idea of, hey, why don't I just tell Omar to rob this poker game that Marlowe's at? And then that way he'll see the benefit of maybe being inside the co-op. That's exactly what happens. Omar knocks over the poker game. Marlowe is not having it. And fun little side plot. We see that ring going from, I think, like 3 fingers, like in this episode, starting out of Andre, then to Marlowe, then Omar steals it at the very end. And then, oh yeah, and also that security guard, he's fucking dead. He's in a vacant. So that's how Refugees ends. So what do you guys got?
Yeah, I thought it was a great episode. Overall, I think it's crazy how I've always thought Perez like didn't belong to be a cop, like Perez didn't deserve to be a cop. And it's kind of perfect that he found in this kind of role, because it kind of felt like that's who he kind of was. So I like that dynamic. Again, I said it before. I think the school could have been disastrous personally, but it's kind of interesting because for so many seasons we've seen just these kids' dynamic, but we don't really realize like we're learning more about them, their home life, things that they go through, and like kind of understanding that side of what Baltimore has to deal with, how they start them so young, and then like the other people that are impacting it. I think it's still hilarious that we're just like season 4. It's basically the start of a football game. We're just going to run the same play all the time because we got to get all the gang back together, but we're going to try to do it a different way. Like, man, they always hand the ball off to the running back and instantly run left. This time we're just going to run right, but like it's the same play. Like it's just interesting how that works. But again, I think the season's building, and I think it builds throughout these 4 episodes. That this is a good starting point. Like again, like how I see it, like. And this may be sacrilegious to Mark, but I was like, the highs of Breaking Bad, like the intensity of Breaking Bad, I don't know if The Wire ever really gets to like those tense moments, but it's like constantly burning. Like it's constantly, it's never like a real like low moment in the season where I'm just like, oh, can we get over this? Like every plot and everything it's slowly cooking to the end, which is like great in a police procedural. That you'll need is like you got to build to a finale every season to make it complete. But they do such a smart job of building it every season to make it that way. So yeah, I think it's interesting. And how they made some characters still interesting for 4 seasons that haven't really had a lot. Like Bubbles is still paying off this many seasons in, which his shtick or could have overdosed at this point has paid off. So it's kind of interesting.
I think what's interesting about Bubbles is I want to just talk about is Bubbles right now really has no connection to any story right now, but his story is compelling right now nonetheless, which I think is something that not really many shows really pull off.
Right.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the show is it can have so many different storylines going on at once, and you're invested in all of them. And each episode, while it doesn't have like these like, oh my God moments, it has just like really great little character moments for just about every character in each episode. So yeah, I mean, it's great. Even like just like the minor character, like the vice principal, who we find is like almost a better interrogator than the police in their interrogation rooms. It's just, it's crazy. And I love the scene when Snoop and Chris come to Bodie and tell him what's his plan. He's like, well, I was going to have this guy kill you, but he ran off. So I guess I'm in. It's just all these great little character moments and everything. So yeah, I mean, great episode.
I mean, we just can't underscore the power of an adult telling a kid, hey, I'm going to call your mom while they're at work. So you just wait here. I'm gonna get him on the phone.
Your
We'll
your
see.
foster mom at that. So I'm sure he's probably been through a few foster moms in his life. So
Yeah.
No, no, that's good. Well, it was pretty good. I'll keep bringing us through this journey. Next up, episode 5, Alliances. Talking about our corner kids, we will get started with our school corner kids side of this episode. Have probably like the most kiddie, like cold open I think the show's ever gonna get. Like just hanging out like in an alley, talking about like, oh, like Chris and Snoop, are they killing guys, or no, they're like turning them into zombies in these vacants. That's why they got to be alone, because they got to change them, and then they get scared off by the dope head who just walking through, like walking through the alley, just really silly.
it's a really great reminder that these are kids, and
It is.
Yeah.
they're being asked to do a whole lot of stuff that they shouldn't be asked to do. But at the end of the day, they're still just kids.
Mhm.
And going on to Prez wants to start a new thing in his class. He starting a a point system. I guess simplest way to call it, sticker slash detention system. Stickers for like good things, and you do some shit like throwing his pencil across the room, like you're going to get detention. Several students put in detention, including Naaman and Michael. In the middle of that, we got Bunny, kind of breaks up these kids that they're trying to look for into two groups known as the stoop kids and the corner kids, as the kind of the kids stay on the stoops, like their parents tell them, are the ones that go down to the corners.
Sorry. Hey, Arnold, anybody? No? Okay, good.
I mean, I didn't hear that. I was just, oh, God damn it.
Stoop kid, kids. Yeah, that's all I thought every time.
I didn't realize that until just now. Like, God, the fucking stoop kid. Okay.
I got you. There you go.
Anyways, trying to find the corner kids for the project, just trying to keep an eye out for that type of student. And Naaman seems to make an impression of that when he blows up on Prez in his class, and he's being sent in principal's office, runs into Bunny and Guy Parenti.
What the fuck you looking at? If you weren't heading to the principal's office, the main office, you are now. One of the best moments of that.
And going on the detention, Prez ends up buckling under the pressure a little bit for this first go around. Ends up calling it in. Also told about Michael's situation because he didn't show up. He had to pick up his little brother Bug, and he's letting know about it. Also locks his keys in his car. Sees Donut as a guy who definitely a guy who enjoys cars. Put it that way. Snoop and Chris make their move on Michael, telling him like, "Hey, we take care of our own, but taking an interest in you. If you ever need anything, just let us know." Michael turns him down this time, so keep going. What was it? Where the fuck am I? Oh yeah, Prez show Michael that he's on his side, pretty much telling him like, "Hey, I'd be willing to help you out." Kind of giving him a out for him missing detention. Prez also kind of been trying to help out Duquan. Notices that kid's not showering, comes to school in dirty clothes, tries to give him some dirty clothes, or tries to give him some clean clothes. Still shows up in dirty clothes, and he's told by a student like, "Yeah, his parents sell his clothes on the corner because they're a bunch of drug fiends." So Prez got to do a little bit more there. Bunny and Parenti now trying to get their studies started. Been advised to start out with 10 kids, 10 of these corner kids that they put it. Then Randy was asked by a couple boys to be the lookout while they went on and had sex with another girl in the bathroom. So he goes on there, does the deed, kind of sees Colvin walking by. It's done. Then on that note, he's also kind of carried on like this weird zombie thing kind of throughout the episode, and then we're kind of brought right back down to reality by the end, where Daquan takes him to a vacant house, sees a dead body, is like, yeah, they're not turned into zombies, they're just dead guys. So, why are bringing us up at the beginning and then pulling us back down? Going on into the political side of the mayoral race. Valchek goes and tells Tommy what Burrell did with the witness murder, that he made the switch. Tommy's camp is unsure what to do about it. They didn't come to the decision to leak it to Tony Gray because it would Tony pulls it up, probably gets some votes for Tony, hurts Royce, helps him in the long run, makes sense. Norman goes and tells Tony all this. Tony can kind of see past the bullshit a little bit, but does seem that Norman is able to convince him, like, hey, performed pretty well here. Maybe you get in for a congressional seat or some other bigger race down the line. Seems to work because he does leak that information to the press. So Royce is all fucked up over that. While that's going on, Watkins confronts Royce about the kind of the campaign ad situation he noticed with Marla Daniels down the line. And over that meeting, blows up on Royce, saying he's not who he used to be. He's taking money from all these developers. Like, you're not the same guy. He says, fuck it, I'm out of here. And he rolls on out of that office with a fear, which shouldn't be funny, but it kind of is. To see a guy just
it's funny. It's very funny.
Rolling on out of there in his wheelchair. So in the middle of that, goes into another funny part. Rawls then decides to leak that information that Watkins is part of from Royce's campaign, to Tommy and Norman while they're on the street. They have that funny thing where, like, all right, we'll wait for his car to turn the corner, and they sprint to their SUV, drive quickly over to Watkins' office, and Tommy is somehow, that silver-tongued devil, is able to cut into the bullshit and get Watkins on his side. So now Carcetti really is in the driving seat to possibly win this election. Going on to the police. Marimow decides to execute those warrants on the street level for Marlowe's operation. Rhonda and Cedric are think this is fucking stupid. Pretty much everybody who's worked on The Wire think it's stupid. They're not going to get any arrest out of it. Throughout the whole episode, Lester and Bunk are going through a bunch of locations. Lester's really trying to figure out where all these bodies are being hid, whether they're at some Lincoln Park, the sewers, whatever. They're going everywhere. Burrell gets chewed out by how he handled the witness murder investigation. Kind of seems to be like Burrell's going to be put in the back seat, as Royce has kind of tasked Rawls to fix it. His version of fixing it was kind of filled in the story that Norris is actually going to be partnered with Kima. Kima is a little bit upset with being fucked with on the situation, saying, oh. And then Landsman kind of breaks it down, like, listen, I don't like doing this, but fuck it. As long as we do our jobs, it'll probably come out good for us on the other end. So these warrants do get put down. Come up empty. Nothing comes in. It's a fucking waste of time. Marimow wants some information on Marlowe from Herc. Of course, he doesn't know shit. Carver does seem to be a well of information. Knows exactly what's going on. Tells him about the outside spot where Marlowe hangs out. And Herc gets the bright idea putting the camera up in that joint. Getting to see where what Marlowe's goings and his conversations. But what do you know? There's a guy hanging out as Herc and Sidner are setting up the camera. So Marlowe knows immediately what's going down. And that is what I got for the police episode. Or also Lester just gives up on finding the bodies. That's also it too.
Yeah.
Finally on the streets, going real quick. Chris and Marlowe start scheming how to get back at Omar. For now, they decide to do nothing. They don't put the word out. They're not putting out a hit on him. Nothing. Bubbles catches Sherrod selling on the corner. Wondering what he's doing. The guy that Bubbles or that Sherrod is selling to sees Bubbles, beats the shit out of him, steals his money from him. He's leaving bloody on the corner. From that, Sherrod and Bubbles decide to part ways for now. Sherrod says he needs to find out some things on his own. Marlo seems to be in a forgiving mood for Andre. Tells him, hey, you don't need to pay me back. Just, Marlo's going to rob your shop in a couple of days. And when he does, you're going to file a report with the police. And in those couple of days, Chris shows up, says, hey, Andre, just get out of here for a second. Yeah. Shoots a lady who was working in the store, beats him about the face of his pistol, and just says, Omar. You leave them there. And I think in this episode, we'll see Andre with the detectives looking at a photo array, points out Omar. So Omar, a little bit fucked right now. And end off with Marlo now deciding to meet with Prop Joe again. And he is now, after being fucked with on the card game and all those sorts of stuff, now is going to join the co-op with Prop Joe and the rest of these dealers in Baltimore. And that is the end of Alliances.
Yeah, poor Bubbles took a shot right to the face. Press trying to be tough in class didn't go a whole lot well for him. But all those kids look like they can kick his ass, so I don't know why that's a great suggestion from him. I do love that every character is scared of the woman adult figures in every situation. Like they'll push the mail, but as soon as a woman starts talking, they're like, "What? Sorry." Like he was like, "What the fuck you looking at?" To that one guy. So and she stands, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like, okay. But overall, I think it was a great build. Again, I think like where we're progressing with the story. I like Kima in the homicide unit, like working on that field. Basically calls him a fat ass, like the guy, like basically like, oh, they're fatty, like yeah, fuck you, fat man. I was like, yeah. So great episode overall, great build, still going. Again, the payoff story's at the end, but they're doing a really good job of setting up. I like where they're also. We'll find out next episode, but the Omar stuff is like, damn, like. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a solid episode. I feel this is probably the weakest of the four because I feel like this one's the most like setup heavy, and it's setting up the stuff that's really going to go off in the next couple episodes.
100%.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think kind of going back to this one a little bit. I think that I don't really realize is how important this witness murder is. Mm-hmm. Like it feels like it's something that just kind of rings throughout, and it didn't feel like that the first time I watched it. I do kind of like that element going back to this one more and more. So we'll start episode 6. Good old margin of error. We'll just say, got an election going on. It is now election day. The Democratic primary is ending for this town. So only halfway through the season. We're also ending this mayoral race, something they very easily could have stretched the entire season. So very surprised that we were ending off this now. First, starting with the school corner boy story. Started with Naaman and his mother, bitch, goes to see Avon's sister. Apparently she wants to meet up. Turns out Naaman's mom was getting paid off by the kind of Barksdale Association, pretty much for kind of being in jail. Apparently, there's no more money. They're not going to get any more money. But Avon's sister has assured her that you've been paid enough though. Your boy should be good. And Naaman's sitting there is like, oh, what the fuck is she talking about? Haven't seen any of this money. And she says, you shut the fuck up. You're now going to run a package of Bodie. We're going to go see him about that, try to set you up because, of course, we got money problems, which means you got to get on the corner and start selling some drugs.
Worst TV mom ever.
Facts. Bad guy. Real bad guy.
So with that, Prez still looking to help out Duquan. brings him in whenever he sees him in class. Says, "All right." Brings him in to the gym area. Says, "Hey, get here a little bit earlier. I'll let you in. Get shower. Give me your dirty clothes. Go wash them." Just being very, very good at the boy.
Good guy. Very good guy.
What, you saying that about Prez?
Yeah, good guy. Good guy. He finally is no longer a cop. Good guy.
Redemptive guy.
Could never make it as a cop.
Big moment, but man, got to move on though. That Randy gets called into the principal's office because there has now been a rape allegation thrown at him, and of course he scared the shit out of him. Donnelly was definitely prepared to call his foster mom on this, and after nothing worked, he finally let it slip out that, hey, I know about a murder. And that, of course, stopped her in her tracks. She brings in Prez in on this, saying, hey, he knows about a murder. I got to call the cops. I don't know what to do here. Prez, able to kind of calm her down, is like, hey, let me just put some of my people on this, try to figure this out. He gets in with Daniels. And Daniels is like, you know what? I think I got the guy. I'm going to put Carver on this. And even though we're 6 episodes in, it's still very funny how everybody's like, wait, what, Carver? We're going to put Carver on this? Like, no. Trust me. Carver's the guy for this. He's able to kind of calm it down, saying, hey, at least with the foster mom, doesn't really seem like he really knew anything. So we're just going to kind of look into this. And as long as he doesn't do anything else, he should be fine. Keep your mouth shut, because it's also better that nobody knows that you're talking to us. That corner kids program where we're pulling kids in, that is starting. Naaman, 9 other kids are put into it. We're going to try to help them out, be better students, socialize them, all that good shit. Cuddy, seeing doing a little bit of doing a little bit of fucking around here. Yeah, we see him getting out of one of the mothers of the kids he coaches his house. Definitely have a very awkward goodbye because he's definitely not coming back, even though he's definitely seeing this woman again. So I don't know what he's thinking. Goes out on a run, sees Spider working the campaign. Of course, Spider runs off. Cuddy doesn't know. Randy shows up there as his foster mom. He ends up getting put on some campaign work. Him and Donut Duquan, I think it was Kennard too, they try to help him do some work. But the moment they hear that he got paid up front, they're like, yeah, you can split up that money. We're not going to help you deliver all these dumb campaign ads. That guy's fault for paying you up front. Stupid. Yeah, Bodie agrees to put Naaman on the package. Bodie is a little bit beside himself that he just got a mother just yelled at him, just give a kid some drugs. Although he does get Naaman now at this point. Naaman tries to get Michael to help him sell the package. Michael refuses. He still kind of resisting every facet of getting into the game. And then at that point, Michael then tells Cuddy, hey, the reason why Spider stopped showing up is because you were fucking his mom. And he didn't really like that. So a little bit on you, buddy. That ends that off. And not a ton, honestly, as a lot of this episode was kind of dominated by the election. We kind of condensed the streets and the police into one story. Marlowe set a trap for the major crimes unit. He was kind of, saying, hey, I got a package coming in from the lady. I'll take care of it. Of course, Herc, seeing this, thinks, man, I got Marlowe on the run. Follows him to a train station. Of course, Marlowe gets with just some random lady. He gets arrested in the train station. And, of course, train police search him, say, hey, got nothing. Just closing here. No drugs. Gotta let him go. Herc, a little bit confused, to say the least. Norris and Kima now working their murder, and they seem to have a lead that could possibly help them solve the case. A bit of lead on a jailhouse snitch. Rawls comes into the Landsman office saying, "Hey, what the fuck? Why are we still trying to solve this case? Because you know, if we find out that this witness was killed for witnessing, Royce is going to be pissed off. He could win the election. If he was killed for any other reason and Carcetti wins, he's going to be pissed off. He could win the election."
Yeah.
And so very solid points being brought up, which is why Norris and Kima get put on campaign duty. So they could not possibly solve the case. And of course, they're pissed off about that. And then, even though not a ton, I got a ton written on here, big part of this episode, warrant has been put out on Omar. McNulty sees, wait, he shot a citizen? It seems kind of fucking weird. Very unlike Omar, the McNulty sighting of the episode. Very neat scene when Omar realizes he is about to get arrested. Just kind of notices the cop car just kind of sitting outside. Says, "Huh, that's a little bit curious. I'm gonna grab this 40, stick this 45 in with the other things of beer, walk outside." That asshole cop that we're seeing everywhere pulls him over, jacks him up, and then Omar, confused as hell, doesn't realize why he's getting arrested. McNulty comes up and is like, "Yeah, we got a murder warrant on you." He's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? I didn't kill anybody." Which, not 100%. Definitely killed people.
Not fully believable. Not at all.
So after that, Omar is going to be put in a van. He's able to convince McNulty to let him use the phone. He uses that one phone call to call Butchie. Tells him, "Hey, man, I'm locked up. There's no bail. They're saying it's murder. You got to help me out." So we then get a somewhat ominous last scene with Omar a little bit. See him being put in lockup. A couple guys come in. They pull out some like kind of plastic shank. And as it turns out, Butchie sent him. So Omar is going in to lock up with at least some protection. So that covers up what we got in the streets and the police. Going in, political mayoral race. Go into this neat little cold open of all the candidates going to church on that last Sunday. Tony Gray go into a very quiet, solemn, what looked like a Catholic mass. And Watkins and Tommy going into the very joyous and boisterous like a Christian mass of some black congregation, very yin and yang. And the mayor race in its home stretch, everybody's scrambling to kind of get that last little bump. Tommy is kind of losing his mind a little bit. He can kind of feel that he's close, but also knows that he can still lose this thing. He was kind of at peace now. They know like he was kind of close to losing, but now that he kind of within a point, kind of admits to his wife, "It would kill me if I lost at this point." The Royce campaign does throw out a smear at him, like that he helped defend, because I guess he was a lawyer at some point. He helped defend a slumlord. He gets all crazy, thinking he's going to lose over that. Also in the middle of this, he gets a call from good old Clay Davis. Apparently Clay Davis also wants to jump ship and think, "Hey, maybe we meet up with Clay Davis, give him about 20 grand, and maybe, you know what? He'll give us the extra push we need to win this good old election." And what do you know? That son of a bitch just shows up on TV later saying, "Yeah, he actually politicking for Royce this whole time, and we basically blew 20 grand on him for nothing." Good old Norman also brings up, that's whatever. He probably took Royce for 30 grand after he met with us. Fucking asshole. So now, going into the thick of it, waiting on the results. All the candidates are with their camps. And now that we're in the very serious thick of it, Tommy has kind of had it with all the election stuff, goes out on a walk with his wife, have a nice evening. Phone just keeps her ringing. Not really sure what it is. He finally answers it. Tells his wife, "Hey, stole his base. We end up doing it. Royce is conceding. I won the election. So Tommy is somewhat the new mayor, but technically the Democratic nominee for the mayor race in Baltimore. Although, 89% Democrat. So he's the new mayor. Of course, at the end, partying in a hotel room, and Tommy gets put in a situation where, hey, maybe he gets to hook up with Teresa at the end, and he has the very non-characteristic of stopping himself from, I guess, having another affair. I'm assuming he's not had an affair. He could have, but doesn't have one with Teresa. Episode ends. And that is margin of error. What do you got?
I think the political aspect, especially, is probably the weakest point of the show for me overall. It never felt really out of hand. Like, I know they tried to portray that in the show, but it never really felt like he was going to lose. Like, they spent so much time on him. Like, it was like, I think it would have been more like shocking if he lost. Now, I know it's intrigued to make him win to move that story along, but like, they could have told me he was down 15 points. It was like Trump in 2016. Like, the polls could tell me whatever they want, but he still won. That was the situation with this one. Like, I just expected him to win. So it never was that intrigue that I think they wanted it to be or how they portrayed it to us. But overall, I enjoyed it. Omar getting roughed up. I've never wanted to beat up a police officer more in my entire life. Leave Omar the fuck alone, you douchebag. And Jimmy's even sitting there like, bro, like what? Like Omar doesn't do this shit. Like Omar doesn't kill innocent people. Like that's not. He's literally Robin Hood. Like that's who he is. Like he messes with the bad guys and gives it to the frees up the place. So yeah, I think it's interesting switch and Omar now in a jail setting. I'm really next episode that was dream scenario. Like you now put him in a caged and you made him a caged animal with people that he would normally take out. So what's gonna happen?
Well, we know he watches Oz, so he's ready.
Yeah, he's ready.
He's going to be surprised that there's actual guards, though. But other than that, he's ready. Yeah, I mean, this was a really good episode. I like that they kind of, like I said, they kind of wrapped up the whole the election storyline kind of quick. I thought that would have gone on longer. Real good stuff. Feel so bad for Randy with all this stuff that he kind of got dragged into. Especially the vice principal should know better, trying to turn this poor kid into a snitch, and especially with all the news about this potential witness who just got murdered and all this stuff going on, and she's going to do this to him, and of course Naaman and his mom. Oh. And then of course all the Omar stuff is awesome in this episode, and it gets even better in the next one. So yeah, really good episode. And the scene too with Marlo kind of playing Herc. I mean, I know Herc's not the brightest police officer, but I mean, he was there for the first Wire in the first season. He knows that the main boss isn't going to be anywhere near picking up the drugs, but hey, it's Herc, so we'll give him a break. But yeah, good stuff.
What I find so neat about that is I could believe there are cops like that they have seen how shit will work. But then they go away from it for a little bit. And they're still like, no, this is the way how to do police work, even though they know for a fact.
And to be fair, Herc and Carver were either in the van or on the roof for most of the time. So,
and yeah, you're right about Randy. It's just fucking one thing after another. And it's kind of we're at episode 6 and we're already here. We're already here where he has to blab about a murder to one of his teachers, and at least at least on the mayor thing, I'm not wholly disagreeing with you, Cody. At least on kind of where we're at with this political thing, I do think they were smart enough to realize that nobody's really going to believe this is kind of a close race up into here, just because they finished it off in episode 6. We got 7 episodes to go. We're going. We kind of just want to get this over with to kind of go on to the other stuff. It's, I mean, unsurprisingly, there's more political stuff going to go. But no, and then the Omar stuff, which is, I did have it further back, but you know what? We'll just kind of go into it right now. Like, just probably one of the better cold opens, I think, of the show. Going in to start episode 7 onto others. We see very Omar trying to get set up for lockup. Going very vintage season 1 Oz, as we brought up. Bringing some phone books, tying it around his chest. Going in for breakfast, asking the really stupid question. I guess that's how you know, like, Omar's a good criminal. He's never been in prison. He asked if they had Honey Nut Cheerios. Like, of course not. Of course they don't have Honey Nut Cheerios.
This motherfucker's been looking for that since the season started. Somebody give him some fucking Cheerios, man.
But no, he gets in there. A couple guys get into a fake fight behind him. They get in a shot, but Omar's able to get him. And then he grabs his shiv and just shoves this knife up this guy's ass. Gives him a good couple stabs in there. That shit's not going to work right, quite literally. He gets pulled off. He has to make a call over to somebody, try and help him out. So, very awesome cold open featuring Omar. Going in real quick, even though very political heavy episode last one, not so much for this episode. Just a few things here on the political side. Tommy meets up with that former mayor he met up with that first episode a while back. Tells him kind of a funny analogy for being mayor. Somebody that just gets forced to eat shit all day, which is kind of nice warm up to where we're going to get. Royce and Tommy are now all chummy after the election. Kind of does make sense. I would hope there's at least for a lot of the political realm, after the election is over and it's over, we won. We're just kind of laughing about the dumb shit that we did throughout the entire election. Just kind of a funny scene. Tommy also discusses with his people about the possibility of getting rid of Burrell, although they very smartly bring up, like, listen, man, there's a racial component to this, and you're a white guy, and you can't fire the black commissioner, which is a thing like you can't do. So Tommy realizes he's going to be stuck with Burrell, even though Burrell's done nothing but fuck over the mayor for probably the last year and a half. Although he's out on call with a couple cops, kind of running a district, trying to get a feel on the crime, and there's been a murder. And who does he see working the scene? He sees very recent major leader of commander of the Western District, Cedric Daniels, working the scene. He seems to know his shit, and Carcetti seems to take notice on Cedric's professionalism. I'm sure nothing will come of that. With that, we'll go to the streets. Bubba comes looking for Sherrod at the school, trying to figure out where he's at. Donnelly says, "Yeah, we haven't seen him. It could be anywhere. Sorry." That we go. Prop Joe tells Marlo, "Hey," because Marlo had told him, "Hey, I got people looking in on me. Like, what's the deal with that?" Prop Joe kind of tells him, "Listen, you'll get a better idea who's looking in on you if you steal that camera. You'll get it. If it's feds, then nobody's going to come looking for it. If it's local, they're going to come knocking on your door. Who's come looking for the camera?" So that happens. Bubbles gets robbed by that dope fiend again, beat up. Bubbles also thinks he's going to get help from some cop, but he happens to flag down.
I want that guy to die so bad.
He's the
I
biggest
hate that guy.
That guy.
He's the fucking worst. See, he's in fresh bruises on his face. Like, hey, you can't be selling this shit. And he steals his bootleg DVDs. What kind of asshole steals bootleg DVDs? Anyway, Herc now freaking out because telling Carver about a situation. He did not get prior authorization for using the camera. And worse than that, thing I didn't bring up in the last episode is that he put on the information that he got from the camera on their good old confidential fake informant of Fuzzy Dunlop. So if anybody comes looking for this camera, he's pretty fucked on this. A very big procedural error on his part. Carver tells him about this kid, Randy, that he talked with previously, saying, hey, it was somewhat of a witness of a murder. Why don't you take a crack at him? Maybe he can give you a murder, and you know what? You can go to Marimo and kind of bring in this murder, and you can kind of bring up the camera, and maybe he goes easy on you with the camera. But remembering that, he also remembers, hey, I had to send Randy over to Bunk. He then calls Homicide. Bunk is left a message, but one of this detective for some reason crumpled up the message because he's upset about with Bunk for some reason unknown to us, at least for right now. That Herc interviews Randy. He says a bunch of shit. Of course, I mean, he says some stuff that you could have done shit with, but Herc's, kind of an idiot. So, Herc isn't going to get anything from this interrogation with Randy. He tries to strong arm him into being the eyeball witness. Doesn't work. Bubbles catches up with Sherrod, tries to bring him back in the fold, though Sherrod is still kind of heavy into the streets, as in we will get to. Wow, a little bit of a mix up there. But with that, going into the school corner boy story, Cuddy goes and confronts Spider. Says, hey, I know I didn't know that was your mom. Sorry about doing what I did. Didn't mean to hurt you. Spider, of course, doesn't take it super well. So Cuddy realizes he's kind of lost Spider because of what he's done. He then kind of tries to make up for it a little bit. Kids in his gym saying, hey, didn't really realize I was kind of hurting you guys by, fucking the women in your life. I won't do it again. So kind of honestly, as I'm saying it out loud, it's kind of a weird deal. Just kind of going through that a little bit. Anyway, Prez trying to figure out a way how to reach these kids in his math class, trying to figure out how to get them interested in math. And he gets the bright idea of trying to teach them probabilities using dice. Goes to the game room of the school. Says, hey, we're going to just go and try to find this dice. And then he goes into this room and he sees, oh, man, there's all these new books and shit. We're using the 3rd editions. They got the 5th one here. Sees a brand new computer. Why not just put this shit in my room? Like, you know what? We're not going to use it. It's just sitting in a box. Might as well, try to get something out of it. Also, got Sherrod. It's part of a crew. And notices that there's another crew kind of encroaching on his corner. What is that crew encroaching on that corner? That is Naaman and his crew. Naaman and his crew of Donut, Kennard, and who is the 4th kid? I can't remember. Sees them hanging up on there. And, of course, stupid Naaman doesn't realize what he's doing. Of course, Sherrod gets all coked up, trying to intimidate Naaman later on. And what's his face? Cuddy gets in the middle of it, breaks it up. Kind of Naaman doesn't realize what he's doing. Kind of puts himself on another off-brand corner. Good old kids let him hear about it. Well, also in the middle of this, he's trying to get kicked out of this new class. But pretty much this new program, that Bunny and Parenti are kind of doing, there's you know what? You kind of fuck with us here a little bit. We're not going to send you home. We're going to make you kind of just sit in this room. You're going to learn to behave. We're going to put you back in the regular class because we're not just going to, give you an easy ride on this shit anymore. And, of course, not necessarily the best time working this. Naaman's got a whole bunch of fuck yous for Colvin just going ready. But with that dice stuff, Prez does find some good success with that. He has kind of a winning moment here. Then finally getting down to the police end in bit here. You got Kima and Norris trying to solve the witness case. That jailhouse snitch kind of goes nowhere. Kind of get a little bit frustrated with that. Omar meets up with Bunk, guy he called earlier in the episode was Bunk, and Bunk a little bit annoyed because he's like, you know what? you didn't kill this person, but you probably killed a bunch of people. You know, I got a couple murders that open on you. I know you got blood on your hands, but Omar just happened to use his words right on him. I think what he used on him about a year ago. Man's got to have a code. And that shit got under Bunk's skin a little bit. So he starts shaking the trees on this case a little bit. He's going after these guys like, hey, man, you look in on this story? And of course, these guys are all fucked up about it. It's like, why are you trying to undo our fucking murder? Why are you backseat driving my case? This is fucking dumb. Which leads to that other detective not taking that Randy a note and bringing it to Bunk. So he gets definitely gets on some bad sides there. Rhonda gets in good with the new state's attorney. He seems to be impressed with the subpoenas that she put out. She's now going to be in charge of the homicide investigations. For that guy that was brought in for the witness killing, they run a polygraph on him to try to see like if maybe he was the one that ordered a hit on this guy. Kima kind of learns that probably wasn't the case. Like he was kind of fine of going to jail, and he wasn't going to hurt this guy because he was kind of friends with him on the outside. So kind of sees it brings in Kima kind of a new look on this. Bunk is able to convince Eileen Nathan to move Omar to a quieter detention center, kind of get him out of hot water at the very least. So at least Omar is probably not going to end up dead, in the next day or two. And finally, Kima showing her stones as a homicide investigation. She goes to the murder scene, fresh eyes, kind of deduces pretty wildly that, looking at the scene, the kind of bullet holes everywhere, noticing there's some kind of shot up bottles, and seeing a ricochet on the wall, it kind of deduces that there were some guys that were having target practice on these bleach bottles and like these other beer bottles, and that one of these bullets ricocheted and happened to kill the witness on the other end. Nobody seemed to notice either because they were using potatoes as silencers, which tells us to Norris he can't believe it. Leaves him with the good old line of "fucking love this town." That ends off this episode. On to others, and this week of The Wire. God, that was fucking long.
Yeah, we're going to start capping Mark Menchaca on the Wire talks. Matt's in his own personal hell trying not to fall asleep over there. Not that it's long, it's just late for him over there. I think it's a great episode. I think Perez is also one of the dumbest human beings possible, basically teaching them all how to gamble. And a great way to gamble, and teaching probabilities of gambling. Like, no one shot dice in the back alley ever before, and now giving them something to do. That can't backfire. I think the great cold opening with Omar in jail and basically all that stuff, I think it's brilliant. The payoff is going to be really good at the end, I think, of the season because how they're building it. It's already intense on certain parts, so I can just imagine where it goes. I'm ready for where it ends up at the end because these 4 episodes seem to fly by, honestly, when watching. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, great stuff. All the stuff with Omar in the prison and the Omar with Bunk, I thought was a great scene where Omar just throws it right back at Bunk. It's like, if I go down for this, you're giving someone the free pass. So yeah, I thought that was fantastic. I love just a little character moment is like when Bubbles goes to the school and he sees Prezi and tells him, "Don't worry, I know you're undercover. I won't mess it up." but Bubbles having a bad day there. Really good episode. Like I said, this is a really good arc here. Kind of goes over in these episodes here. We get the end of the election stuff and kind of get Tommy kind of moving in, getting ready to set up his stuff that he's going to be working on for the rest of the season. So yeah, really good stuff.
Yeah, the kids. I was just gonna say the kids stuff is really moving along pretty nicely here. Like episode 7, everybody's already kind of in a bit of deep shit. Naaman's already having to sell drugs. Michael is kind of like being on the verge the whole time, and Randy's having to dodge a bunch of shit. Like, I think that storyline's. I think at least going off from when I first watched it, that storyline always gets me how quickly it progresses.
And I found it interesting that nobody went to Lester about, because I feel like Prez would have gone to Lester about this, especially if he knows that he's in homicide now. But I guess figure going to Daniels would be the best route to get the right people on it. But who knows?
I think he knows he's a major. He's
Mhm.
higher ranked, and he knows like
Yeah.
Daniels he can at least keep everything a bit under control
Mhm.
if things go a little bit crazy. And at the very least, like it's not going to get huge under Daniels.
Yeah. And he thinking Carver's has improved a lot, but not enough that he's going to toss Randy off to Herc. So
Yeah, who for him?
The good news is nothing really big happens in Breaking Bad, so this should be the quickest 3 episodes I've ever talked about. Apologies for how late this episode went. I'm sorry, it's probably going to go longer. I will try to beat Matt's time of 50 minutes and Mark's time of an hour and 10. So we'll start off first episode 11, Crawl Space. Basically, remember last time the group, Gus, Mike, and Jesse all went to the cartel, ended up killing them. They end up showing up at this, of course, medical hospital in the middle of the desert for Gus. He has an entire team there ready to take care of his life. Ends before the music breaks, where he's like, Jesse, like, help Mike. I'm sorry, this man pays my salary, and basically leaves him. End up going. We cut back to Walt in the cooking and with the other guy, basically weighing out the options. Like he weighs them. He's like micromanaging him basically inside his own lab. Basically pisses off, wants to know where Jesse is. Walt drives Hank to the farm, basically, like where Los Pollos Hermanos, where he kind of figured out where, just to sit there and talk to him about all that situation. Cuts back to the hospital. Gus and Jesse's there talking to the doctor, and he walks like up to him, and he sees like blood for Gus, Mike, and there's a spot empty, and it's Jesse. And he like starts talking to him about like, oh, you're this, right? No, you drink, you smoke, you puff, 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 all that stuff. He's like, yeah, but no diseases. Like, how do you know all that? And then the guy just turns around and looks at him and goes, holy shit. He literally thought of everything. Like, Gus has everything planned. He's got spare blood for them if they need it. They got an entire lab paid on salary, so they don't go. So I think that's just brilliant. Gus ends up walking out healthy, gets the cartel's necklace, and basically, you need protection. And there's a joke, and they leave. Walking out, Jesse and him are walking, I guess, 6 miles, I think is what they say. Like, they have to get back to town. After he said no travel, basically, after he's went through this ordeal, now he's got to walk 6 miles in the fucking heat. And Jesse basically says, let Walt go. Let Mr. White go. Pay him off. Just don't kill him. And Gus' first response basically goes, that can't happen. Like, basically, that's not an option. And then Jesse's response, then you got a fucking problem. Like, you've got a problem because I'm not giving you the green light to kill Walt. Like, that's just not happening. Which is crazy when you think about the character of Jesse, basically, like, of how much he's been through with Walt. Jesse's the most loyal guy of the entire, like, he's loyal to the fault, basically, of all. The entire world around him can die around him and crumble, and it's all centered back to Walt, but he will still die on the sword for Walt. Fucking Beneke calls the fucking house and basically says, I need to talk to you. Ends up going to his house, talks to him. Ted writes him a check for the $617,000 and says, "They don't feel right taking your gambling money to pay this debt." And like, fucking Skyler's like, "What the fuck are you talking about, dumbass? Like, you literally are going to go to jail and you cook books and you have a moral compass because of gambling." And he's like, "What if I pay this? Like, what happens? Like, I still owe this, I still owe this." But you don't go to jail. Like, very simple. It's just like, could you be any fucking stupider? Basically, he's like, no. And she's like, what I want from you is to pay the fucking IRS. Tears up the check and like leaves him. Basically gets on the phone and calls a reliable friend. claimed to be Saul. And then I basically called these four, again, spoiler if you haven't seen these, but these 3 episodes are the demise of Gus. Basically, is how it's always simulated. Every bad guy, every big thing, every like serial killer always has a one thing that they do that fucks everything up. And it starts in this episode. He basically goes back to the place, goes back to Hector, Solomon, and basically shows him the necklace, basically, and tells him the name dies with you now. Like, you are all alone, and I've killed everybody that you love. And basically brings Jesse with him, which later, the demise of who he is. Basically shows him and goes, you do know him, right? You remember him? Yeah, he's the one that shot him and he bled out, blah, blah, blah. And then leaves him there. Hank and Walter driving. They end up conversating about this thing and basically talks about the air filtration system and it's like signed for by Gail Bedecker at this location. It's the laundromat. It's basically the lab. A lab right where he works. He's like, turn in. I was like, oh, I didn't know. Like this is, and then it ends up causing a car wreck to just not go to the place with Hank. Doesn't drop him off at the plane. Marie and everybody are out there meeting with Hank and says that's the last time you're going with him. Like he's no longer, you just can't do that. So that's the situation. 2 great side characters show up because of Saul. Saul sends, well, I don't remember their name. I can never remember their names. Huel and Bill Burr.
Bill Burr, yeah.
Bill Burr over to his house, and they like sit down and goes, well, what's going to happen here is you're going to write a check for us, $617,022, blah, blah, and you're going to write it to the IRS. And they're like, Skylar sent you? That's not important. What you're going to do is you're going to write this check, you're going to bang it. And then what's going to happen is we're going to seal it, we're going to sign it, I'm going to go run and drop it, and you're going to sit here with Huel, and we'll wait a couple days, and once the check clears, you'll be good to go. And Huel doesn't like to get angry, so don't make Huel angry. Are you angry? Yeah. Like, just, yeah. Like, will you be angry if he pays him? No. Like, good. And then it gets signed, and then Beneke runs, kills himself. Just slips, cracks his skull on the thing, basically breaks neck or whatever, dies. Like, dead. Right? He's dead, right? Yeah. Yeah. So it's hilarious. Of course, Bill Burr's is sitting there like, seriously? Like, the oranges fly. Like, everything just, it's almost like a flipping Three Stooges part. But dead. And they're like, what the crap? They said clean. Didn't happen. Walt gets back to the lab. He notices that a cook has happened. Like you've cooked. Like, who has cooked? Doesn't know it. And then Walt, so then that ended up going because she was gone for so days. Walt shows up to Jesse's place where the girl and her kid are sitting there, Brock. Jesse is not happy to see Walt. Basically, keeps shoving him and like, get the fuck out of here. Like, keep shoving him. He's like, don't you get a hint? And he's like, don't you realize he's going to kill me? Like, if you agree to this, like, he's going to kill him. Not knowing that Jesse's already vouched for him, he's not going to do that with him. And the black guy shows up, tases Walt, shocks him. And then we get to see the ruthless side of Gus. Gus basically says that you stay the hell away from Jesse Pinkman. Basically, if you remember at the beginning of the show, the complete 180 that has now happened. Jesse was exposable, was going to get killed. Jesse is now the most reliable. Walt is the most dangerous to Gus. So Gus basically gives him a warning if he doesn't stay away from Jesse Pinkman and he's like, what? What are you going to do? Like, what if I don't stay away from him? And he's like, I will kill your wife, I will kill your son, and I will kill your infant daughter. Basically, like, gives him, like, the demand and then, like, leaves him in the desert, basically there. Walt shows up to Saul's office and goes, "I need passports. I need a new life, a new identity." And he's like, "Well, it's going to cost like $500. It's going to cost $500,000. Like, if you want this, like next minute, they'll give you a call. You'll be gone. Everybody you'll be. No one will have any recollection where you are." So he's like, "Deal. Like, no problem." He's like, "Here's the number. Call the number." Like, all right. Walt gets home, goes to the crawl space, title of the episode, starts digging around the crawl space. Where is it? Where is it? Skylar shows up at the same basic time. "Walt, where's the money?" he yells, and Skylar goes, "I gave it to Ted. I gave it to Beneke." "You gave it to Beneke?" Then methodically, Joker laughing, and gets on the phone with Hank. Like, Marie calls and says that they're after Hank again, and he is sound methodically laughing in the background, knowing that she just signed our death warrants. Like, giving it to Ted, we are now dead. Like, there's no coming back from this situation, and he's left just under the great pan up shot of him on the floor, just laughing as the camera goes up from him inside the crawl space. So that is the crawl space episode. What's everybody's thoughts?
Yeah, I mean this is a fantastic episode. One of the smartest things I think it does is it takes Mike off the board, because I don't think that the rest of the season can play out the way it does if Mike is there without greatly damaging his character. So I think they were smart to kind of just remove him from the situation entirely. But yeah, great.
And they remove him smartly. Like, they don't make it like plot divide. Like, he actually gets taken out, and he's got to recover, and that's the situation. And this happens over the course of like
just
a few days.
Like,
it's not time jump or anything. It happens, boom, 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 boom. So yeah.
I wonder if that was just kind of like I wonder if that's something that just kind of they stumbled upon, or if they realized kind of early on, we probably got to take Mike out of this situation, or else he's gonna kind of run into some stuff.
How smart Vince Gilligan is! He had this plan from like Jump Street. He knew if Mike was around, this doesn't happen, so he had to take Mike out.
Walt is dead the next episode if Mike is around.
Correct.
Also, Ted stuff is great too. I didn't want to get on
it.
It's really funny. He's talking about the morality of it, even though he was the guy that bought a brand new Mercedes the moment he became like $600,000 richer. Hilarious,
right? And he just blackmails her.
There, I told her you were my 18. All right, there we go.
Okay. End Times, episode 12. Basically starts right where we left off. The DEA basically are going to put Walt and them into protective custody. Walt's not going. Walt says he's not going. Like, they're not coming out. Like, if they're going to take anybody out, they're going to take him out. But like, he doesn't want his family and him connected. That's the reasoning. But where he basically says is like, I'm not a target. It's just Hank. So, like, don't worry about me. I'm not going to go. Kind of talks to Hank and says like, you don't think I'm going? He's like, it's not going to go over well. Like, with Marie. Marie's not going to have. You're not here. But like, yeah, I get it. He ends up like doing like farewells, like kisses his daughter goodbye. Like, he thinks like this could be the end for him. So that ends up happening. Walt just sits in his backyard with his gun, just basically waiting, taking the time. There is something seen in this shot too that will later play out, but there is something that is on display in this beginning that will have like basically how this show goes, like the oh fuck moment, like oh shit, like they're so smart where they plan things and leave it all. They basically leave everything up to let you know.
They're great with the foreshadowing, because even in the last episode at the beginning, Ted trips over the rub and kind of catches himself before he then trips over it later and breaks his neck.
Did you break up me? Is this me? Okay. I don't know if you broke or me. It might have been both of us. But yeah, they do great foreshadowing. They have basically everything planned out. He's sitting there waiting. They go back to Hank's. There's the security of all the stuff like waiting around. Jesse, of course, Walt Jr. pissed off at his mom for like, because you didn't even fucking try. Like you're a fucking bitch. Like just mad at her again because Walt's not there. Marie tries to like get him there, but he doesn't answer the phone. Hank and his partner basically is like, I started pointing finger at Gus, and now this is back at me. So like, I think it's Gus, and he's like, I don't think you're right at all. But he's like, it's Gus. Like this is where it is. But he's talking about the laundromat. He's like, why don't you just go there? He's like, they're never going to approve a warrant. What happened to a warrant? Like, what about just stop and search? Like, stop and chat and see if you can get in there. That's never been your style. They end up going over there, talking to the guy, and he's like, just two of us, or we can bring everybody back, shut down for a while, do everything. So they let him sit around. And the guy regrets it as soon as he gives permission because they bring the dog in and they've taken pictures. They have it all scoped out. But of course, they don't find anything. They take a bunch of pictures, though. But Jesse and the guy are downstairs, and they get a call from Gus, and he's like, do you know who's involved with that upstairs? And he's like, it's not happening. Like, I'm not giving you the go ahead on this. You're not killing Walt. And he just hangs up on him, leaves him alone there. They end up going. He gets in the laundry truck. They basically drive Jesse to his other car thing, and he sits there and listens to voicemails from a bunch from Saul. Basically, no time code, but just basically Saul ends up showing up about the money. He's closing down he's got a clean house because things are going south. Everybody's looking into stuff, so he's got to like leave. So he's like giving him the money. Skylar's curiosity to why Hank looks through the photos of this like place, like because she knows that basically like not doesn't know for a fact that's where his lab is, but like if anything is going to point to Walt basically because she knows Walt's involved. They're scoping everything out. She's back to smoking. She gets a cigarette from one of the guards because everything. Jesse gets a erratic phone call from Marie. Not from Marie. Who is what's the girl's name?
Andrea.
Andrea.
Thank you. Basically, Brock's in the hospital. They end up going through. She's panicking. She's not. They're like, "Are you father?" No. So he steps outside. He opens up his pack of cigarettes and notices the ricin cigarette is gone. And he walks back up, talks to Andrea, and goes, "Ricin. Tell the doctors it could be ricin. Like, just go say." He's like, "Okay." And then Jesse goes to Walt's house. They're talking. Walt's like flipping out, like puts the gun down while he's guarding because Jesse's there now. Starts looking through everything, freaking out. Doesn't realize Jesse has grabbed the gun. Basically, grabbed the gun and just like, why did you do it? Like, tell me why you did it to Brock. And he's like, what do you mean did it to Brock? The rice and cigarette. Like, when could I have had the opportunity? When you came to the house the other day, you looked at Brock. Like, you noticed Brock. Like, it was you. Just admit it. And Walt basically was like, don't you realize what this entire situation is? It was made in his lab. Gus has been 10 steps ahead of me every single time I've tried to do anything. And I've been waiting all day long for him to send somebody to me. And he sent him. But you didn't realize it's you. You're the reason. Who else has used kids in the past and been okay with using kids? And he like basically puts the gun up to his head. He's like, kill me. Shoot me if you believe I've done this. But I have not done this, Jesse. Like, you were wrong. And basically he's like, and then he heads to, like, they end up realizing he's like, I'm going to kill him. Like, that's it. Like, that's the decision. That's it. And Walt basically clears him from getting angry with that situation. One of the best, like, overall acting scenes from Bryan Cranston as Walt in that scene. Especially how much payoff it has in the next episode too, episode 13. He just is brilliant. Like, just never can be like, every time his back's 100% the stone is being put on his grave, like it's over. He finds a way to just maneuver around it, and brilliant. The guy shows up at I don't. What is the black guy's name?
Tyrus.
Tyrus.
Huh?
Yeah.
Tyrus.
Iris. Iris shows up and then he goes, "We need to cook," and he's like, "Oh, I'm not fucking going." Like Jesse's at the hospital, he's like, "I'm not fucking going," and then he tries to take him and goes, "I don't know this man. Like, get away from me!" He basically stranger dangers his ass in the middle of the hospital. He calls Gus and goes, "We have a situation." We cut back to Walt. Walt's making an explosive, is what you can see, and way better than Oz. But he ends up clicking it. It won't go off. He doesn't know, and then it finally pops. So then Gus shows up, basically, and Jesse tells Walt, "I think I got his attention. Like, I think I got Gus's attention." Gus shows up to the hospital and says he wants to speak to you. He's like, "I'm not going." And he's like, "Gus would like to meet you downstairs." Well, why that situation? Gus is basically talking to him. Is like, "Why can't this happen? Like, I need you to cook behind schedule." Gus kind of like plays it cool at the end. He goes, "We'll start back up next week. Like, take the time you need. We're good." Which is very unlike Gus, but he ends up doing it. Then one of the very intense scene, still so confusing, but it just fits like with Gus. Basically, Gus is walking back to the car garage. He's walking like basically an extended walk to the car. Walt is across the street. He has planted the bomb onto Gus's car. So he's going to take him out that way. He is walking, and Gus gets like close to it, stops, looks across like everywhere, like stares, and then doesn't get towards the car, turns around and leaves. And Walt's like, "What the fuck? Like, what do you mean? Like, get to the car!" I'm like, this man has like it's crazy. So it ends with him walking away and Walt being absolutely defeated. Brilliant episode, just brilliant episode. I think the Brock stuff. I think the conversation between Walt and Jesse is absolutely just insane. What's your guys' take on In Time?
Yeah, I mean, this is a fantastic episode. I mean, just the tension in this whole episode and the next episode, it just keeps ratcheting higher and higher and higher until we get to the conclusion there. And like you said, the scene with Jesse and Walt, though, there is some fantastic acting. And I really like Gus's kind of spider sense there is kind of tingling at the end, kind of one of the last times we get to kind of see him have kind of like that sixth sense where he feels something's not right. And he's smart about it. So had Mike been there, he probably would have sent Mike to go and investigate the car and find the bomb, and then game over there. But yeah, so really good stuff.
I mean, I've kind of brought this up a couple of times, and since we've been kind of talking about the season, I think a thing that I really enjoy about season 4 as a whole is just how little control Walter has throughout this entire season. How he seemed to be the smart guy who's always making the right moves, and he now has his back completely against the wall, and there's nothing he can do. Like everything just kind of seems pre-decided for him this entire time, and then it leads into probably one of the biggest like kind of twists like we get kind of going to the next episode, because there's honestly a lot I kind of want to say about this episode, although we kind of got to get through the next episode to kind of fully talk about it.
Yeah. So the last episode of the season is called Face Off. Basically, it starts with tense music, Walt getting the bomb off of Gus's car. He walks into the thing, and Jesse's like, what do you want me to do? Leave the bomb on his car? And he's like, "What, you brought a bomb into the hospital?" Like, basically, it's like, "You idiot. Like, what are you talking about?" So they basically have a conversation. Two police officers come up to Jesse and is like, "We'd like to talk to you because you said something very interesting to Andrew, so we'd like to discuss that with you." So ricin, basically, that's pretty interesting. Like, why did you know that exact thing and exact, very specific poison, like all that stuff? Like, what came to that conclusion? Basically, grilling him. He's not really getting anything.
Probably saw
Walt,
it on House.
yeah, right. Walt ends up breaking into Saul's office after calling and stuff. Breaks the glass, and his like receptionist goes, "Oh, there's always a problem with you guys. Like everything. Oh, you in trouble? Shocking! Everything. You're always in trouble." And basically, she's just, now I got to wait for an entire wait for a window. And he's like, "I will pay you like money. Just get me in contact with him." And she's like, he's like, "Out here is like, I don't know how much he offers him at first," and he's like $25,000. No window, no right businessman would like pay for $25,000, and she just like gives him a look, and she's like, "Oh, you like just fucking just hosing him for money."
So sometimes Walt can be so dumb.
Yeah. Then one of the coolest scenes, Jesse, Walt's driving home, basically stops at the entry point, calls a neighbor to says, "Hey, do you still have a key? Can you check? I think we might have left the stove on." She walks in. The two guys waiting for Walt walk out, basically. So he ends up his demise was getting coming close at that point, basically, and still gets him away. So she gets
Another
out. They get
instance where
out.
Mike would have got him.
Walt basically gets into the crawl space, gets the money. They break into the house, like get towards him. He ends up able to escape out the back and go. They're back to the thing about like discussing the ricin in the room, and then Saul shows up and goes, "Oh, I know you guys ain't talking to my client with a lawyer present." Does the old classic line. Walt basically finds out the information about Hector. Basically, he goes and visits Hector and says, "I know you hate me, but I think there's a man you hate more. Like we could, if you were interested in revenge, I think we could make this happen." So they do a perfect like lead-in plan because he's like he needs to talk to somebody. So she ends up doing the nurse comes in and plays the letter game with him, and she says, "Need DEA." She's like, "There's no one named Dia," but ends up getting the DEA involved. So Hector wants to meet with the DEA after talking to Walt. Basically, as a setup to get Gus to know that he's going to talk to somebody, and gets the Rue on him. They're all mad. The family's still mad that Walt's not back at the house. What was it? Hank finds something on the computer that he's like interested in. I don't know what they.
It's not about like the machines and how much power
Basically,
they're
electronics.
using.
Like, there's more panels than necessary for this. Like, what is that extra panel for? Basically, it doesn't matter. The grid doesn't make sense for what they do. Something else is going on inside that. They're basically. Hank is pretty smart. Basically, when it comes to investigating stuff, like he knows what's going on. Basically, they get him into. Hector meets with Hank and the DEA, and he goes through it. Basically spells out some fun words for him. First one is "suck my," and they stop. He doesn't get to dick at that point. And then the other one is "fuck you." And he's like, "We'll go again. F-U-C-K." It's like you can just see it, and it's like, I know how to spell. Thanks for the time. No waste. They end up getting him in the car. They see Hector going back into the van. Iris calls Hector and goes, "We got some news. He's coming from the DEA." And then he gets pulled back into him. He's like, "You should be." The nurse is like, "You should be ashamed of yourself. You're embarrassing. Like, that's how we act." And then he gets.
Well, at least he didn't shit himself this time. So
yeah, he gets in the room, and as soon as he gets in the room, the door shuts. Walt comes out of the bathroom and goes, "Let's get to work." Basically, there's a plan to get him messed up. Iris walks into the room, checks out the scenario, looks around. Walt's just right outside the door, like sitting there, just blankly sitting there. Jesse is walking out. He's free to go because it wasn't ricin. whatever it was, it wasn't ricin. He ends up getting put into a van and basically taken away. Gus shows up to the thing after they check it's all clear. He gets the phone call that it's all clear. He walks in. He ends up sitting there with Hector talking to a DEA agent like that's just you're no man. Pulls out a needle, basically going to take him out. Like that's going to be the end of Hector. Hector, he's like, we'll see each other in another lifetime. And then Hector's like looking up to the side and then looks straight at him, grins his face, and starts ringing that fucking bell. And then Gus makes a explosion happens inside the fucking thing. One of the absolute coolest shots as you see the door and everything fly out. The nurses run up. Gus walks out, straightens his tie, and half of this skull is completely empty on the other side. And he ends up, Gus Fring is dead. Iris is dead. Hector's dead. They have killed him. Walt's in the car to hear the news about the explosion because Walt gets the fuck out of Dodge. Basically hopes it all goes up. Jesse's in there cooking. They basically bring him back to cook. They're like, fuck you, you're going to cook now. He ends up, the elevator comes down, the door opens, and then basically you hear two gunshots ring. Walt is basically off two people, and he's they end up going to torch the lab. That's what their plan is. They're like, let's get the fuck out of Dodge. And torching the lab, pull the fire alarm. Everyone's like, what? And then you see the smoke starts, and they get the fuck out. They torch everything. Walt and Jesse have like a heart-to-heart conversation. Basically, it wasn't ricin. It was a thing called Lily of the Valley. Like, don't know what happened, but that's what it was. Wasn't ricin at all. So Gus wasn't involved at all in the situation. So kind of crazy. He's like, oh, wow, really? No, that's crazy. Basically, the news breaks. Hank finds out that Gus Fring is dead. Skylar calls Walt and goes, what does this mean? I won. We're free and clear. Then one of the most ominous shots ever. It ends there's two shots that end the season. It's the Pollo's chickens, basically, in the little thing, and then it pans to a backyard shot, zoom in on a pot that we've seen throughout the season. But it's Lily of the Valley sitting in Walt's backyard. It was Walt the Poison Brock, and basically got him to turn on Gus, and for Gus, that was Gus's demise. Absolute killer final 3 episodes of the season. Absolutely the perfect arc for a character that is such a powerhouse of Gus Fring. One of the ultimate TV bad guys of all time. And one that you kind of relate with. Like, he's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, you get who Gus is and why Gus is the way Gus is. Like, he's very methodical. He doesn't make mistakes. He's very by the book. He does these things. But season 4, we saw the start of the demise because Walt is the one person that has entered his life and messed up his way of functioning. The box cutter, he ends up slicing his throat at the beginning. Ends up wanting to take out Walt. Jesse refuses to let him out. Mike's out of the equation, so this is the perfect time. And Walt's entire mission this entire season was to take out Gus, and he ends up finally taking him out of the final episode. Hard to say, but like perfect. And also for that whole act and dog and pony show at the episode 12 of like, it's Gus. He's always been. He's 10 steps ahead of me the entire way. No, motherfucker. Walt is 10 steps ahead of Jesse every fucking time and gets him back into it. And it's basically because you think about it, Jesse could have a very chill life with Walt out of the equation. Like, he's living the dream with Gus right now. He's third in command right now with Gus, and Walt ends up basically convincing him to take out. So now the cartel's gone. well, Gus is gone. There's one man remaining, and it's now Heisenberg. So, thoughts on the overall, and then we'll get to season. So, and then we'll get Matt to bed.
Yeah, I mean, this is not only one of the best episodes of the series, but probably one of the best episodes of TV. I think.
Yes.
And I mean, it's got everything that the show does great. It's got the humor. It's got a great Saul scene when he has to come in there and get Jesse out. It's got the really funny scene with Hector and the DEA and Hank and stuff. Pretty much all the characters get a moment to shine, and it's got one of the greatest just death scenes. I just love how they execute that, and true to Gus' character, where he comes out and straightens his tie before he drops dead. There is totally such a Gus thing to do. And this for me is the point too where Walt's officially a monster at this point. Heisenberg has taken over and he's just irredeemable at this point. I can no longer root for him for the rest of the show for all the stuff that he does with the Brock. Because I mean, did the doctor say that because he could have died right there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no guarantee that Brock was going to survive. He didn't know that. He just pretty much put his survival and his family's, but his survival above everything else. And just, yeah, I mean, fantastic.
Isn't it such a shocking thing? Well, I've always said this. There is no better character in media, in my opinion. Again, this is mine. I'm not saying it's based on.
Mm-hmm.
There is no better character arc in media than Walter White.
Mm-hmm.
A man that is diagnosed with cancer and is dying cares about his mortality more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he puts it above all. Kids, everything. And, like, he knows it's ending, and he did this to set up his family when he's gone. But then he got an ounce of a taste of power, and that's all he's been chasing ever since. So, basically, he's become Gus. Gus used kids, which I fully believe. It's never ever established that he did do. He never says it on camera that he did it, but he uses kids, and so does Walt. Walt does the exact same thing to Jesse, and he is the Walt. Episode 1 of this show to Walt right now is a complete 180 of who he is, who he was as a person. Mm-hmm. It was in there all the time. It took this to come out, and that's what's so freaky.
Yeah, definitely.
Jekyll and Hyde.
I think what was so smart, at least from up to this point, was I think they kind of made us believe from the beginning that, listen, if you were in this situation, you would probably do this thing. You may make this decision just because you're kind of pushed to this limit. And you can't really say that about Walt anymore. Because any normal person would have just said, you know what, fuck it. It's over. I'll just go to the cops. It's going to suck. But because that's what Walter should have done when he realized that he didn't have the money to disappear. It's like, you know what? I'll just go to the cops. I'll give them everything I know. Gus will be arrested. Maybe I don't give up Jesse, but, it'll be fine. But that's not what Walter does. Walter does the ultimate scumbag move of going after Jesse's main weakness. And I think the crazy thing is that Jesse fucking sniffs out the whole plan. Mm-hmm. He says it all in that whole, whenever he's freaking out. Like, no, Saul just had to see me today. And right before I got in, his bodyguard gave me a pat down. He probably took the cigarette, out of my pack. He called it point for fucking point. And I know, on some, I kind of want to believe that Walt was super smart. I got to believe Walt was shitting his pants at that point. Mm-hmm. I genuinely, there's no way, he's thinking there's no way Jesse sniffs out the entire plan.
No, and he does. Was a Hail Mary.
Yeah. And not only does Bryan Cranston pull one, not only do we get a performance from Bryan Cranston of, just or at least from Walt, of tricking Jesse, but we also just get one from Bryan Cranston of pulling one over all of us. He got everybody in that one instance of like, no, like because we never thought for a second that Walter would poison a kid just to get him out of a hot spot.
They do such a smart strategy too of never showing us any of the interaction. They don't show us how he got poisoned, which I think would have sold it less. Because when I first watched this the very first time, I believed Walt. While Walt's sitting there and confessing everything, I'm like, that it is Gus. Like, Jesse, you're being irrational right now. Think about what it is. Like, Gus has done this to put you against Walt, so now his hands are clean because you won't let me pull the trigger. I'm going to make you pull the trigger. But Vince Gilligan goes, got you, motherfucker, because if you look in the fucking potted plant that's in the back of the scenes every episode or in the scene, and I'm going to show it to you like 3 or 4 times this season to let you know that this thing is here, it is Walt. It is 100% Walt, and Walt does it.
Oh yeah, because I mean the one episode where he's spinning the gun and then you see the gun just it points at him like 2 times in a row, and then the third time it points over there, then you just see him kind of look over there, and then that's kind of it. And then we do kind of see how he gets the ricing off of him through getting him at the saws and Huel patting him down and stuff.
Oh
but
yeah, we see that
you
part.
Never see
like,
him. You never
but
see
when he
him
pats
going
him down,
when
he pats him down, you don't think about like Walt's doing this. Like you just don't.
And of course, like Mark was saying, I mean, we would all like to think we wouldn't do this, but I mean, this show is kind of showing that every decision you make, every time you break bad just a little bit, it makes it easier the next time, and then it progresses. And Walt's just like killing people like it's nothing now.
Like Walt is the greatest villain, but I can't get enough of that villain. Like. You don't root for the thing is like it should be all Team Jesse at this point. Everybody's Team. I'm still in this camp. Like I just want to see what fucking Walt does next.
Jesse's a bad guy too.
Oh, he is. Just
there's no longer good guys on the show.
Hank, maybe.
Well, yeah, Hank, yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's a. Like, and I know we're going to the next season, which I think is arguably the best season of television that's ever existed, season 5 of Breaking Bad. I just think it's absolutely just top to finish, just brilliant. But like for this, I still think this one's a great season. Like there's nothing I would change in the season whatsoever. And I'm always curious. I'm always fearful when you lose a villain, when you lose a character like Gus, like, oh shit, your show can literally just like the Adebisi thing. You take him out, your season falls a little bit, you take somebody key out, what do? This season just continues to go because it takes on a different level, right? There's more elements to it that we haven't even discovered yet. And like Hank is still investigating this shit. And even he gives a look when Gus Fring is dead.
But then you have the great villain of Walt in the next season.
Yeah.
So.
and Hank is basically, you see him looking at the camera with Gus dead, and he's still like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would Gus be taken? Then there's something else out there, like Heisenberg.
There's always bigger fish.
Want to get ratings?
Yeah.
I've already said my piece. So I'll let you two talk, but mine is guaranteed where it's at. It's 5 stars.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this season is. There are some episodes towards the beginning of the season I feel kind of drag a little bit, kind of a little bit fillery. So
1, 2, and 3. Well, after Box Cutter, 2, 3, and 4 are a little bit.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just the highs of these like last 3 episodes, and even the episode before down in Mexico and stuff. I mean, it's just so high, it just lifts everything up. So I gotta give it a 5.
Yeah, I mean, even those beginning episodes, all those beginning episodes just have such key moments in setting up to what we're eventually going to get. And I think especially kind of looking back on a rewatch, like every I think kind of like another show I love and another show we talk about, I think every piece of this season matters. Everything contributes it to it as a whole. And I think even going back to, I think we mentioned Gus, how I think even looking back, like he is not in the show a ton. In all honesty, like I think he's more heavily focused on here than like any other part of the show. And even after he dies, I don't think anybody feels shortchanged about him dying. So, and then yeah, like just it ends perfectly. Like this is a perfect season of television. It's absolutely one of the best season television ever made. It's an easy find.
So that would basically jump into the top of the list overall, which not a shocker to most. I think 4 and 5 Wire will also be in those conversations, and I think 5. And next season, it's a talking point I always bring up to everybody how divisive the internet is and how everything is. There's an episode still sitting next season that's 60,000 reviews are on IMDb, and it's still 10 points. It's a 10 out of 10, which is insanity that it still ranks that high. It's crazy. Can't wait. I'm so ready to get to season 5 of Breaking Bad. This has been a very long episode. Matt is dying. But we will try. If we do season finales, we need to either aim for an earlier time or not do it so late. But we will be back next week with next 2 weeks with basically starting of season 5 of 2 new of Oz and that, and then we're getting close to wrapping up season 4 of The Wire. So, yeah.
Getting through.
I hit it. I didn't.